with you, like one of those big 5-gallon soup stock pots, like that you make soup in. And you fill it up probably to maybe 2 inches below the rim with water. And you put that on the passenger seat, and then try to drive around and not spill any of the water all over the inside of your car. This does a pretty good job of modeling the kind of force transfer and, you know, momentum and shit like that in a car, which is what makes you lose traction. If you can master that, just pretend that you have a soup pot full of water in the passenger seat you're trying not to spill. You won't slip on the ice. Do not pour hot water onto your car's windshield to unfreeze your wipers. This will make your windshield explode. This is pretty self-evident, obvious, whatever. Also, leave your windshield wipers up before you go to bed. This will cause, you know, if you try to turn them on while there's ice on top of it, it's going to pull the windshield wiper thingy out of the ball joint that makes it zoop, zoop. And yeah, that's going to be an annoying whole thing to fix. Alright, personal stuff. How quick you freeze. If you're not from an area where it frequently gets to negative Fahrenheit degrees, Celsius doesn't count here, might not be aware just how much colder it is. Alright, like normal winter temperatures in somewhere like Atlanta, right, is going to be 30 to 40 degrees. That's chilly. That's going to suck if you're outside, you know, in that overnight without a jacket. But you'll probably live. You know, you'll have to bundle up, you'll have to, like, ball up, kind of, you know, find shelter in some way, shape, or form, you know, get something hot to drink. But you're probably going to live. Minus 15, you are going to die, just straight up, you will die. So you're going to need to, you know, learn the value of base layers, and really layering in general. 1 second, actually. This is actually a great segue into the sponsor of today's video, Americana Pipe Dream. Really cool military surplus gear / outdoors / clothing company. Been a fan of these guys for a long time, long before I even started this channel. So when they hit me up to do a sponsor spot, I was like, hell yeah, I would love to. Yeah, Americana Pipe Dream is the name. There'll be a link below. It's where I got this cool ass jacket. I was interested in cloning this, like every other setup or rig or whatever that I have. It's a German Army Bundeswehr quilted jacket liner underneath a Swiss, I think it's the M70 parka. It's the Alpenflash one. You can just look, it's got the giant pockets. You can fit an entire Nikon F3 into this pocket. Neat, right? Anyways, I need to take this off. This is so goddamn hot. Okay, whew, that's better. It's hard to wear one of those in front of a light. Anyways, yeah, like the air, like what keeps you warm isn't the liner, it's not the outer shell, it's the layer of air in between the liner and the outer shell, which is why you need both. For similar reasons, like base layers, like, you know, thermal underwear, long johns, wearing a t-shirt underneath a long sleeve shirt, that also does the same thing. It will keep you warm. Alright, how about if you don't have any base layers or jackets or whatever? Well, if you don't have anything, you're just straight up, you're going to die. If you do have a jacket and you're trying to stretch that out and make it, you know, warmer in like a, you know, yeah, like if you're watching this video on the computer at a public library, for example, what you're going to do is you're going to go to a public bathroom and you're going to make sure, A, that all of your clothes are dry. The hand dryer there works great for this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take as many fucking paper towels as you can grab and just ball them up and stuff them into your pants, like down your pants legs, under your shirt, and then like between your shirt and your jacket, and then in the sleeves, to try to, you know, make yourself like, you can try to make yourself look like the Michelin Man or something like that, but this is to maximize the amount of air that is trapped underneath your outer shell layer. This will kind of insulate you thermally. Yeah, so let's move on. Got to get my, you know, notepad here. All right, house stuff. The main thing that I wanted to make this video about in general is this one, ceramic flower pot radiant heaters. So what these are is basically you need to take a terracotta, ceramic, whatever flower pot, like the kind of orangey brown ones that you put plants in, and then 3, you know, either bricks or, you know, rocks or whatever, like 3 things that you can kind of put around the rim of it to elevate it a little bit, and then you put a candle underneath it, like a tea light, just something. And what this does is it takes the incredibly kind of intense point source heat of the candle flame that can't really, effectively heat things up because it's, it's just a little tiny, really hot point, and then it takes that, traps that heat, and then disperses it through like kind of this radiant diffuser. It's like an impedance matcher for thermal transfer, or I don't know why I thought that would be helpful to say, but okay, but yes, make them. They will heat up a room. They'll heat up your hands. They're very cheap. Pipes freezing. How to avoid this one? You will want to, really the pipes that freeze in a house. It's going to be the attic, and it's going to be unfinished basements, or really anything where it's just, an uninsulated section of the house. What you're going to want to do is, if possible, go to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, your local hardware store, and get pipe insulators, like the things where they're kind of like these silver squishy tubes that have a bunch of fiberglass on the inside and then a slice through the top that you just kind of like boop onto the pipes, and this will, do a pretty good job insulating them and keeping them from freezing and bursting. If you don't have that, you can use blankets, sheets, stuff like that. Make sure that, it's not too heavy, but just anything that'll kind of trap heat. And then really what you're going to want to do is every faucet in the house, every sink, every, bathroom, kitchen, mudroom, whatever, if it has a faucet, every 6 hours, just run the faucet on hot for 10 minutes. And the best way to do this usually is to just stagger them, so it's like, noon, bathroom 1, 1 p.m., bathroom 2, 3 p.m., the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. And you get how staggering things works. But this is just to, make sure the hot water heater doesn't run out, whatever. But yes, like what this does is, the hot water rushes through them, it reheats the pipe, the heat gets trapped by the insulating material on the outside, and then it also, melts any ice that might be building up in there, and yeah, it keeps them from breaking.
Fala, guerouzeiras, tô batendo um Binding of Isaac pra não perder o costume, tá ligado? Mano, tô com vontade de jogar Enter the Gungeon hoje, mano, na moral, velho. Vontade forte. Pera aí que eu tô escutando os áudios aqui. Mano, meu save de Enter the Gungeon tá putariazinha, tá? Putariazinha, mano. Falta pouca coisa pra fazer, tá ligado?
Baile da Penha,
Sempre lotado.
todo sabadão eu tenho
Vamos
que
lá.
partir. E os amigos, profissão.
Botar a música de acordo, né?
O ritmo é assim, eu vou pro bar.
Baile da gaiola.
Na intenção de fuder, te vejo no baile, chego sonando, do jeito que você
Caralho, eu amo essas músicas, mano. E não tem copyright strike, né? Porque, tipo, é tudo foda-se, né?
excitada, te levo pro beco e te taco.
Ai, caralho, é muito boa essas músicas.
Toma, toma, toma,
Lucky Up, sempre bom Lucky Up. Speed Down, foda-se, Speed.
toma, 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 toma.
E aí, Guiro, como é que foi seu fim de semana, mano? Começou a fazer live já, velho? Ou ainda não? Desgraçado. Aí. Ok. Ainda não, meu pai levou o PC pra arrumar, sorte que ainda tá na garantia. Porra, bom, você comprou montado, mano? É um desktop, tu comprou montadinho já? Pica, mano, pica. Filho da puta. Esse bicho é chato, hein? Puta que o pariu. Filho da puta. Ah, deixa quieto. Bravo, mano. Ah, menos mal, mano. Então se tem garantia, tá safe, velho. E tu não conseguiu descobrir qual que era o problema, mano? Doideira, velho. Pô, é verdade, tem os foguinhos aqui, porra. O que será que é, mano? Será que é o HD que tá travando, mano? Fiquei na dúvida se é as memorizações, só que depois eu pesquisei e um cara tava tendo o mesmo problema, só que ele trocou os dissipadores da placa de vídeo. Mano, vai se fuder, né? Porra é essa, cara? Pelo amor de Deus, né, cara? Pelo amor de Deus. Trocar os... Quem pensa nisso, né, cara? Deixa eu procurar um vídeo pra gente escutar.
Deixa eu perguntar uma coisa pra vocês, que caretinha é uma coisa.
Só que minha placa não tava esquentando muito. Porra.
Lá não
é
tem,
comum.
cara. Homossexualidade, senão o pessoal vai pegar no seu pé, né?
O quê? Que caretinha é uma coisa. Homossexual. Aceito.
Lá não
é
tem,
comum.
cara. Homossexualidade, senão o pessoal vai pegar no seu pé, né?
O quê?
Não tem lá. Homossexualidade. O pessoal fala que é errado falar homossexualismo.
Ah, é?
Não é que eu sou homofóbico, é que eu não gosto de gay.
Tem?
Não,
Meu Deus.
Não tem.
Não tem. Gêmeos, se nasce gêmeos. Tem problema?
Não.
E não tem problema.
Porque tem,
Inclusive tem.
pra algumas etnias não pode?
Não pode. Eu já vi
Tem,
casos
já
assim
tem lá.
de separar. Um deles é um é o bem ou um mal.
Nossa,
É,
Lá tem.
louco. Isso não tem problema.
Não tem problema.
E deficiência? De ter
tem.
é tratado normal?
Normal. Então,
que tipo assim, de nascer com...
É como uma deficiência mental, por exemplo.
Ah, tá.
E alguns povos não aceitam isso, né? Acham que isso é um castigo, não sei o que. Depende da cultura, cara. É muita diferença. A gente acha que é tudo igual, cada etnia realmente tem a sua. Deixa eu perguntar uma coisa pra vocês.
Então já descartei essa possibilidade. Mano, justo. Você tem play, né, pelo menos, tá ligado? Você não fica sem nada, né?
Seu pé, né?
O quê?
não tem lá.
Homossexualidade. O pessoal fala
Sim. A única porra é que você não pode jogar online, né, mano? Oakburn é a miséria de 97. Sim, isso que é triste, é. Que jogo você tem pra jogar no Play, mano? Seu inglês é bom, parça? Vou tacar um vídeo aqui em inglês, mano, pra nós ouvir. Mudar um pouco a vibe do bagulho, mano. Ah, não. É sobre uma série online, mano. Pô, vai tomar no cu também. Ok, isso aqui é bom pra mim. Pode colocar... Não, mas é num vídeo de uma série em inglês chamada Oakburn, mano. Perdão. Não sei se eu quero ouvir. Se quer ouvir, vamos ouvir, vai. Foda-se, vamos ouvir. Vamos começar a ouvir. Uma websérie chamada Oakburn. Esse cara é o Nexpo. Inclusive, se você gosta de coisas de terror, seja tipo da vida real ou não, tá ligado? Tipo, esse cara cobre muita coisa de terror da internet, o Nexpo. Eu recomendo, mano. Gosto muito do youtuber Nexpo. Nexpo, mano. Muito bom. Ele cobra uns vídeos bem doidos, mano. Já tá com quantos inscritos esse porra? Deve estar com muitos, mano.
For the past 3 years, I've been waiting.
3,54 milhões, velho. Que isso?
Truly special.
Special.
An analog horror series that I wholeheartedly.
E agora,
with
Giro?
everything
E agora? E agora,
is
Giro?
one of the most underrated,
Ok.
most haunting, most unsettling
Posso lidar com isso.
that I have ever seen.
O homem é viciado em
It evoked
aposta
this
mesmo, né?
primal
Foda-se.
fear within me, especially considering that I watched it late at night, lights off, completely alone.
Opa. Caralho, tô curioso agora com essa porra de seu Oakburn agora. Não queria ver, mas ele me venceu. Meio paia, né?
Allow me to introduce you to Oakburn Opus, an analog horror series crafted by a creator named Red Diamond. Within it, we peer in on a town that, on a random night in 1997, had vanished from the face of the earth.
Caralho, uma cidade sumiu, 1.000 e poucas
People went
pessoas.
missing without a trace. And throughout these videos, we take on the role of a detective ensnared in this case. But as they dig, they begin to realize that not only are the answers here elusive, but something in Oakburn is very off. Now, Oakburn Opus is meant to be a trilogy. However, as of writing,
Aye.
only 2 parts have been released. While the case, however, Red Diamond
Aê,
does have
anjo,
2
porra.
other uploads. The Circles and the Starving Five
Bíblia,
that
mano,
appear
jura
to
mesmo?
serve as prequels, fleshing out the world being built here. And so, before we get to the Oakburn incident, we're gonna back it up a bit, because there's a hell of a tale to tell here.
Meu Deus.
Grab that snack and cozy up, because you and I have a long ride ahead of us. This, my friends, is the vanishing of Oakburn.
Tá, porra. Ô, filho da puta.
Alright guys, before we continue, I gotta tell you about tonight's video sponsor, Incogni. So right after Christmas, data from Volkswagen users was leaked in one of the biggest data breaches they have ever had. Bad actors were able to gain access to names, addresses, birthdays, even detailed data of their movement, essentially giving them a complete profile of people's daily lives. To me, the idea of someone tracking me like this is terrifying, which is, again, why I'm an avid user of Incogni. Incogni is a service that safeguards your info through a dedicated hands-on team that scours the net for any traces of your data online. Whenever
Pegar
it's
o coração
found,
branco.
and it will be, Incogni gets after it, submitting legal demands to reinstate your privacy. My favorite part about Incogni is the peace of mind it gives me. It allows me to step back and chill out, because I know that there's a dedicated team out there fighting for my online privacy. Go to incogni.com/nexpo.
Ah, mano,
and
devia
use
ter
code
entrado
NEXPO
ali,
for an
né?
exclusive offer of 60%
Puta
off.
merda,
Once
mosquei
again, that's
totalmente, mano.
incogni.com/nexpo and use code NEXPO
Tudo
or
bem.
click the link below to take your personal data.
Ah, é verdade, né?
off
Tem
the
que entrar
market.
no mundo
Thanks so much
reverso
again
ainda.
to Incogni.
Nossa,
Now let's get
mano.
back to it.
Mosquei triplamente, velho. É o moscas, não tem jeito. É o moscas. Filho da puta, né? Olha só o que tem aqui.
Ethan Astor is a famous photographer from Intosavik, Alaska. On December 5th, 1986, his wife, Martha Astor, reported that her husband was showing a
Alaska.
strange obsession with circles. He would constantly draw the
Circles?
shapes on the walls of their basement. He would also refuse to eat, sleep, or talk to Martha. But Ethan wasn't the only one dealing with such an obsession. Many citizens from Intosavik started to show the same obsession
Tá dando pra
with
escutar?
circles around the same time.
As galera da cidade ficou obcecada por círculos. Vou aumentar bem.
A day before this strange incident, all of Itazovic's citizens evacuated, except for the obsessed ones.
Itosavik é o nome
Martha
da
returned to
cidade.
Itazovik days later,
Itosavik,
only to
nome
find
feio.
out that her husband, along with the dozens of other people who decided to stay, was gone.
Caralho.
Our video begins on December 5th, 1986, in a secluded mountain town called Itazovik, Alaska. A man named Ethan Astor reveals himself as the video's creator and leaves behind a message. Welcome to Itazovik, the town where I live. What you're about to see is my town's haunting. We're not haunted by ghosts or monsters, but by simple shapes. The circles. They come every once in a while, and when they do, we evacuate the town. The people who decide to
novo,
stay
mano.
are never seen again. They will
What?
come in 5 days.
What?
I'll stay here.
Mano, peraí, tá ligado? Ai, mano, caguei minha run, foda-se.
The video jumps forward to the day of the haunting. We're shown the isolated exterior of the Astor home before we're greeted with an ominous letter. Ethan, this is going too far. I no longer feel comfortable around you. You haven't spoken to me or left the basement for days now. By the time you
não é
read
nada
this,
muito
I'll be
realista,
far
não.
away. Please seek help. Martha. Thinking back to the video's description, the town, as it stands right now, is solely inhabited by those obsessed with circles. This fixation seems to manifest in a lack of sleep, of appetite and thirst, and effectively turns all of those afflicted into shells of their former selves. Ethan, a once famous photographer, is now completely alien to his wife. But how and why is he acting like this? Following this, we're shown various angles of the Astor home, to which we gain insight into the extent of Ethan's obsession. Their home is pristine, a far cry from what you'd expect given his condition. But as we observe their bedroom, the cracks in the facade begin to show.
You gotta make your own kind of music. Vixe.
We head down a hallway and into the basement. A circle is painted on the cellar door, and upon entering,
Tô cagado já.
we find Ethan with his drawings scrawled across the
Meu
wall.
Deus, velho.
We approach nightfall.
Puta, paizão, acho que eu vou morrer. Um dia iremos todos.
Channel 5 signs off for the night,
Ufa, tá safe.
and just in time, because
Ok. Tô jogando e olhando pra tela, mano. Tipo assim. Pô, se tu quiser ver depois, tem umas imagens realmente boas, tá ligado? Se tu quiser ver, eu vou pôr no chat, mano.
that night, an unnatural circular cloud forms over the town. And inside, Ethan is waiting.
É meio que Uzumaki, a parada parece bastante inspirada em Uzumaki. Tipo, pô, a cidade tá fixada por círculos, e Uzumaki são espirais, tá ligado? Parece que é essa vibe, mano. Fala, Black, como é que você tá, querido? Chegou o peixe gritando, mano. E aí, Black, suave com você, mano? Estamos escutando coisas de terror em inglês.
The cellar door keeping Ethan locked inside is broken open.
Tipo uma
after a
radionovela.
innumerable alien amalgamation of flesh and light completes some sort of ritual. And from what it seems, something has changed.
Ixi, Maria. Tô me cagando já, família. Tô se cagando. Tô se cagando. Suave demais, mano. Suave demais,
The walls warp and crumble. The fabric of what we understand as reality is now littered with circles everywhere you turn.
É o Uzumaki misturado com Silent Hill, mano. Muito louco. Não sei se a adrenalina vale a pena, acho que vale, vai.
The people who decide to stay are never seen again. Some say they've joined the circles. And now, I'm one of them.
Os caras gostam da rodela, esse que é o bagulho, tá ligado? Aparentemente.
Uzumaki.
Olá! Ele tá falando de Uzumaki.
In which we explore worlds
Porra!
afflicted by spirals.
Aqui é o Uzumaki,
In
caralho!
the first chapter of the first
Jiu-jitsu,
volume, the
porra!
tale narrows its focus to a man named Mr.
Bom demais,
Saito,
tá? Bom
someone
demais.
who randomly noticed the shape, out of place, in an alleyway. As the story carries on, he grows an unhealthy obsession with the spirals. He begins to
Leia um
collect
Uzumaki, quem não
hundreds
leu
of them.
ainda. Baixa pra ler online, no site de mangá. É uma das melhores putas coisas que eu já li, mano.
Twist. And at the end, completely out of nowhere, he creates a spiral of his own. Contorted and mangled.
No.
It's of himself. Dead in his tub. The parallels between the circles in chapter 1 of Uzumaki are clear, and much like the latter, the affliction terrorizing this town is never explained.
Merda.
It's a horror that simply exists.
Incompreensível,
something that the
horror
residents
incompreensível,
accept as normal.
família.
It has no structure, no form, and the only way anyone's able to conceptualize what it is they're experiencing is by chalking it up to a haunting. According to Martha Astor, her husband Ethan was never seen again. He became one with them, contorting his body into a circular, sentient mass of flesh. Yet the most horrifying aspect of it is that regardless of his predicament, he's happy, content with the fact that he will forever exist under a veil of ignorant bliss. Itozovic, as they see it, is haunted by circles, and people are going missing every single time they appear.
Pô, papo reto, mano. Vocês aceitariam, tipo assim, saca? Tipo, começou uma energia incompreensível a assombrar, por exemplo, a cidade que tu mora, tá ligado? Só que é uma energia que, mano, entra em contato com você e você meio que, tipo... Você meio que entende o que ela fala pra você, tá ligado? Ela fala, tipo, vou dominar aí o bagulho, tá ligado? Mas você vai ficar feliz, mano. Você vai ficar bem, tá ligado? Você não vai ficar triste, tipo... Você só vai ser do domínio do círculo do mal, tá ligado? Mano, vocês iam achar tão ruim assim, tá ligado? Você vai ser feliz, mano. Tipo assim, se você realmente for feliz e não for um bicho, sei lá, traiçoeiro, tá ligado? Pode ser uma criatura traiçoeira, né? Pode ser, tipo, uma mentira. Mas se não for, mano, pô, tá ligado? Sign me the fuck up desde que eu não tenho que trabalhar, tá ligado? Porra, paizão. Vixe. Pode vir espiral, pode vir círculo, pode vir triângulo, pode vir a puta que o pariu. Ainda se me der imortalidade, eu não preciso nem ser tão feliz assim, tá ligado? Se eu já não morrer, eu vou aceitar, mano. Aliás, virar um vampiro resolveria 90% dos problemas da minha vida, cara. 90%, assim. 90%, família. Se tivesse como, mano, eu já tava, puta, no primeiro lugar da fila, mano. Se tivesse como, velho. Porra. Minhas costas.
Your stomach. And now I shall punish you for it. The Starving Five begins by displaying multiple illustrations. In the first, we can observe an isolated landscape with the eyes peering down upon it. In the second, the corpse of a deer. And in the third, we bear witness to a horned, three-headed creature. Interestingly, upon enabling the captions here, we can observe
diabão.
a hidden message. An exiled spirit, rejected from the domains of the afterlife,
Ai.
damned with an endless hunger, a mouth that can't eat, and a throat that can't swallow. It takes shame on its grotesque form, using every aspect of its unnatural physicality to lure and capture prey.
Nossa, esse bicho aqui é chato de matar, hein, velho.
To bring upon the decay of
Puta
man's
que
flesh and ego. Now, hang on. This creature is surrounded by a shape. Circles,
Círculo.
which leaves me to wonder, are they the only threat afflicting Itazovic, or are they somewhat of a precursor to something much darker?
Dunce nem fodendo. Scorpio. Bom. De vida agora.
Our video begins on December 21st, 11 days after the assimilation of Ethan Astor. We're shown a cabin in the remote wilderness, and it seems lifeless. No power, no fire. No one is home.
Tá em preto e branco, né, paizão? Não dá pra saber se não tem energia, né?
We are starving. The engine is dead. A flimsy wooden shelter keeps us away from the snow.
Nice.
Heat escapes through the cracks. Our skin hardens. Animals sing and hiss, but nothing is seen. We are starving. Your quest for truth has granted you a void in your stomach, and now I shall punish you for it.
Ixi, mano, que brisa é
This
essa, né?
cabin isn't
Caralho.
empty. There are weapons for self-defense, books and belongings, a vehicle completely snowed over and dead. The starving five are locked in this cabin with no food, no water, and no warmth, and staring them down, taunting them day
Bicho
after
corno,
day
bicho
are the
corno.
skeletal remains of a creature
Esse
that
boss é
once
chatinho.
food.
Puta que pariu.
I find it interesting that this takes place on December 21st, as, in my opinion, ample time had passed since the incident with Ethan. Perhaps this group was driving back to Itazovic to see what remained of their home.
Morre,
Perhaps these five
desgraçado.
all have a loved one who stayed. These people are on a quest for truth, yet something out there has stricken them,
Ai.
damning them to this frozen confinement.
Mas HP, bom.
Gary heard his lover's call. Natasha followed him blindly. Alex dreams unquietly. I watched the rumbling snow attentively.
Ó. Vamos fazer um negócio aqui antes.
We are not starving, alone.
Nós não estamos passando fome sozinhos. Morrendo de fome, né?
The storm picks up as the sounds of inhuman creatures echo throughout the night. And inside, someone is waiting.
Cadê o espelho? Onde está o espelho? Eu me cagando ontem com a porra do... a Mai tocando um som que bate no... de coisa batendo. Nossa, me caguei ontem com essa porra, hein, família. Você tava aí, ô Guiro, na hora que eu me caguei? Puta, mano, eu não sei o caminho, velho. Eu não sei o caminho pro boss, nem pros itens. Fudeu.
Before realizing that the front door is wide open.
Tava, né? Porra, mano, me caguei foda, tá? Puta que pariu.
The anxious dreamer wanders unconsciously. Will you follow him?
Ui, coração. Não devia ter pego, né? Eu perdi ataque com isso, essa putaria.
The video cuts out before placing us in
Nossa, o
front of a
papai tá
telephone
fazendo dinheiro, tá?
4 days prior.
O papai de vocês tá fazendo dinheiro, tá? Foi engraçado, virou assustadão pra jogar. Mano, cara, eu falei, morri, né? Morri, tá ligado? Porque, mano, é a janela aqui. E o barulho é, tipo, parecido até, tá ligado? Com aquele barulho, mano. Cara, eu falei, fudeu, mano. Imagina, alguém batendo na tua janela de noite, eu ia ser assassinado ao vivo, cara. Caralho, mano.
Do you believe she's still there, alive?
Alex,
It's been a month.
she's dead. This city is hostile. All it takes is one detour, a miscalculated step, and you're gone. But Gary still has, albeit naive and delusional, hope that we can still find her. And who would dare to take that away from him? This is the least we can do.
I suppose they will look for nothing and find nothing, and somehow that's supposed to numb the pain.
Perhaps. People disappear and are forgotten year after year, and everyone turns away because they fear the truth.
Nossa, eu tô sendo guerreiro nessa, tá? Ah, mano, só porque eu falei, cara, eu ziquei, mano. Eu ziquei a run.
Tomorrow we'll leave in the morning.
Nossa, insta karma, velho.
As we expected, it seems like the residents of Itozovic aren't even trying to fight back or understand the phenomenon plaguing their home.
Itozovic, mano, que
They're
nome é esse,
living
tá
in
ligado?
complete ignorance, blind to the reality unfolding right in front of them. Perhaps those who changed, who became obsessed with the circles, weren't going crazy after all. Maybe they were digging, trying to figure out what the hell was happening. I mean, if your town suddenly became a target of an inexplicable threat that nobody else was taking seriously, it's a safe bet that you'd go crazy, too. After cutting back to present day, we've left the comfort of our cabin. Something beckons for us to follow. And so we do.
Eu vou para na gaiola, fica de marola. É, isso é bom até. Eu gosto de City.
We spot something in the distance, just barely out of view.
O que? Um diabo.
And what greets us?
Até arrepiei, viado. Até arrepiei.
The frozen, distorted corpse of Gary.
Quem que era o Gary mesmo? Quem tá prestando atenção na história? Who the fuck was Gary? Ok. Pô, tá até parecendo uns demônios aqui, tá ligado? Tenho medo. Caralho, velho. O bagulho tá parecendo as coisas mais assustadoras que você já viu, tá ligado? Ok. Se eu lembrar disso de noite, fudeu, velho.
As Dmitri stared into the night sky, something somehow had taken over his mind, pulling him out of reality and into a tomb similar to, but just slightly different from, where he came from. No longer was he outside. He became confined in the cabin with the physical manifestation of the creature we saw at the very beginning of this video. As it beckons for us to starve together, various missing flyers flash before our eyes. Dmitri Olov, Gary Esther, Natasha,
Caralho, onde que tá essa porra, véi?
There were only ever 4 people in the cabin that night, and that's because the 5th is right in front of us.
O diabo era a quinta pessoa, era o diabo.
Alright guys, Ryan from the future here. So, quick thing. So the end of this video contains copyrighted music, and conveniently also harbors a lot of key points that sets the foundation for what's to come. I was originally planning on just showing it to you, but because of the music, I'm just gonna have to walk you through it. So, following this scene, we jump forward to December 22nd, the very next morning. We're shown the interior of the cabin before a shadow passes across the screen. We then cut to a shot of Dimitri's eyes, in which we can observe that they're not normal, but completely gone. This man has been robbed of his eyesight, his humanity, everything he has ever known, and is now confined with the physical manifestation of decay and rot, taunting him forever. Days, weeks, and months pass, and nothing changes. Dmitri pleads for his eyes, for food, for anything to save him from this torment. Yet nothing ever comes. And in the end, he has become one with the Starving Five. A fate worse than hell itself. The ending here establishes that whatever
Não me
victims
parece
find
mais tão
themselves
confortável você
pursuing
aceitar o
the
demônio,
truth
tá ligado?
of
Do
those
bagulho,
afflicted
mano.
by the Atozovic incident are
Né?
perhaps
Tipo, os
doomed
caras
to
tão falando,
suffer
pô,
a fate
um
much
destino
worse.
pior que a morte,
Nothing
tá
about your
ligado?
existence
Sei
is
lá, né,
worth
pai?
anything anymore. You simply exist in a void where nobody can hear you, nobody can see you, nobody is coming to help.
Parece meio pai agora,
You
né?
know, at least Ethan got the liberty of suffering in a blissful ignorance. A euphoric existence of flesh comprising something that man cannot even understand. Yet here, I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
Opa. E agora? Tá. Tenho uma ideia. Não, não tenho não. Não tenho mais. Na verdade tenho, sim. Será? Não vai ser, não. Não vai dar certo. Música de Dark Souls, porra! Já pararam pra pensar que o zoológico tem cobra pra poder ver animais que eles sequestram? Te cobra Pra poder ver animais que eles sequestraram. Na verdade, não é bem assim, mas também tem um fundo de verdade, tá ligado? A parada é que os zoológicos, eles são importantes para a preservação de várias vidas animais.
Act 1 is now under our belts. A tale from 1986 outlining an eerie phenomenon plaguing an isolated mountain town. People are dying, contorting into forms completely alien. And most harrowing of all, something has awakened, damning people into an agonizing, eternal existence. It goes without saying that there are incomprehensible horrors lurking around Atazavik. However, we haven't even seen the cruelest one yet. Something else is out there, lying in wait, and I have reason to believe that everything up to this point was nothing but a precursor for what's yet to come. Refill your drink and
Look
grab
up.
another
Yeah,
pack of Oreos,
bitch.
because you and I are far from done here. And so we continue. Back down the abyss we go.
De volta pro abismo, galera. De volta pro abismo. Ato 2. Eu gosto de coisas de terror. Não sei se é a vibe pra um domingo à tarde, tá ligado? Mas, mano, se vocês acharem que tá ruim, tá ligado? Avisa. Talvez eu não faça nada quanto a isso. Mas pelo menos vocês vão tá, né?
Oakburn Opus
Falando
1
das coisas,
begins
né?
at
Comunicação é importante, né?
Lake Oakburn. We're informed that in 1997, the population of Old Oakburn
Moeda
had
pod, tem a
vanished
moeda
overnight.
pod só.
And in
Merda, filha da
2024,
puta.
classified information from the Oakburn case was leaked by anonymous sources. A new light is shed on the case, which branches into countless theories, hypotheses, and discussions. The following images are based on the manuscript's findings belonging to an anonymous inhabitant and a restored cassette tape depicting the phenomena.
Do Femônima. Foda-se. Nossa,
The
dano, da
photos
hora.
from here are sets of evidence pertaining to the Oakburn case.
Só não morrer
We
agora.
begin by honing in on a suspect, someone called Oakburn's flutist, and at first glance, this person appears oddly menacing. It's a horned humanoid figure that we can hardly discern in the distance. We're then given some backstory, straight from the Oakburn residents themselves.
Deu certo.
On a cold morning, the outsider stumbled upon our gates and quickly became a welcomed guest through the sweet and captivating melody of his flute. My people brought him into our village, a secluded place west of the Atazavik Mountains. We provided the flutist food, water, and shelter,
Flautista, era um flautista.
and in return, the man continued to enchant our people with the tunes of the winds. Following this, the video transitions to a written testimony by, presumably, the other residents of Oakburn. The children adored him, soothed
De novo essa
by
aqui
the
é-
low blows. Men and women
Nossa.
respected him, and for the great entertainment and
Mas
happiness
destroçou o
provided
bicho.
by the flute. To the more humble folk, the flutist was
Ok,
a gateway,
vida é bom.
form of art.
Agora vamos de espelhos.
As we're shown various illustrations of the flutist playing their music, we can observe a strange circular symbol
Antes vamos ver
emanating
outra
from
coisa,
him.
peraí.
And given the fact that it lands upon the hands of those listening, it seems to depict, almost, like these people are being sent into an inexplicable trance.
Ok.
Someone interrupts.
Bastante dinheiro.
He hid them under the veil of reality, impossible to breathe beyond existence. Keep looking.
Mama Mega.
Do not.
Pô, eu
fall.
gosto pra caralho da Mama Mega. Será que funciona no reverso, mano? Eu vou usar. Será que
He
funciona?
adapted to our customs, ate and drank from our kitchen, hummed our chants, and honored our altars without ever voicing a single thought. The flutist used the wind as his words and melodies as his speech.
Será que funciona, Guiras? Ah, eu quebrei o espelho, mano.
Within the wind, it hid
Ok, tá
fangs.
ligado? Eu não sabia.
Within the
Bom,
wind,
mas tudo bem.
it breached our spirit.
Tudo bem, tá
Within the
ligado?
wind,
Tudo bem.
the flute burned the veil.
Matei o que eu queria fazer na run, tá ligado? Mas foda-se. Foda-se. Foda-se, meu. Foda-se. Virou outra run agora, tá ligado?
I find it interesting
Fazer o quê, né?
that
Fazer o
Martha
quê?
Astor,
Fazer o quê?
the same Martha Astor, whose husband became obsessed with circles over 16 years prior, is now playing a hand in investigating the strange phenomenon.
Eu não vou desvirar o The Lost, não?
Thinking
Porra!
back to the description of the Starving Five, we can recall that it read, "Your quest for truth has granted you a void in your stomach, and now I shall punish you for it." Martha, by the very nature of this investigation,
não, pô.
is on a quest for answers. And given everything
See
we've seen
Forever
so
eu gosto
far,
mais.
some arcane force is punishing troves of people
Aí, desvirei
across
o
the
The Lost.
Itazovic Mountains. This leads me to believe that Martha, by the time this tape is viewed,
que eu
is
vou morrer.
bound to have undergone some form of punishment herself. Whether it's the death of both Gary and Ethan, two relatives undoubtedly close to her, or if she's since gone missing as well, remains to be
Vou
seen.
morrer agora. Vou
But
morrer.
what does stand out to
Morri,
me are
falei.
the hidden messages warning
Falei,
of the
mano.
flutist's true
Falei.
intentions.
XL, eu gosto de começar no
Also,
XL.
in the Starving Five, there exists a purgatory under
lá.
the veil of reality.
Vocês estão
A place
curtindo o
in which
vídeo, a
those
historinha?
afflicted cannot breathe
Vocês estão
or
curtindo
see.
que tá
A
sinistraço,
place in
mano.
which you're damned to exist, starving and freezing for eternity.
É que é
It
inglês, né,
almost
mano?
seems like someone
Af
confined
tá em
there
inglês.
is breaking through, casting out messages to warn us of an impending fate. And so I'm left to wonder, is this Martha? Is Martha the one that leaked this evidence?
Range down, porra.
As it stands, the flutist, regardless of how enchanting he seems on the surface,
Se vocês
is
quiserem eu
not a
troco,
good
hein? Se
person.
vocês quiserem eu
He
troco.
almost seems like a false prophet,
Opa.
and the people of Oakburn are falling straight into his trap. In the next scene, we move on to evidence 2, an audio recording titled The Magnum
Nossa.
Opus.
Isso aqui é
We're told
fortíssimo.
that in 1997, the great flutist of old Oakburn announces the completion of his magnum opus. A presentation is set to happen Friday night at Lake Oakburn. Hundreds of men, women, and children gather near the lake in anticipation. And this is what took place.
Magnum Opus de Oakburn. Pô, isso aqui é mó bom, mano. Eu gosto também. Ok.
As the crowd cheers, a monolith adorned with the exact symbol we saw upon the heads of the townsfolk glows.
Identifique, interprete e siga. Aparecendo essas palavras na tela. A música. Ah. Ok. Devia ter guardado isso pra quando eu tivesse mais dinheiro, né?
Something isn't right.
Nevermind.
We're greeted by diverging paths. and given the instructions that were plastered in our face, we're left to follow. Follow the music.
Esse é chato, hein? Puta que pariu. Esse bicho é chato. Ok, vida é sempre bom. Isso é mais de boa. Zoinks. Tinha esquecido que Enter the Gungeon é muito bom. Mano, é muito bom. Você tem pra PlayStation, velho? Enter the Gungeon é meu roguelike. É um dos meus jogos preferidos no geral. Não só roguelike, mas é um dos meus jogos preferidos. Sim, a PlayStation deu de graça na pandemia. Que foda, não sabia, mano. Eu tenho desde que saiu, acho que 2017 ou 2018. Eu vou jogar hoje ainda. Eu vou jogar. Vou mostrar meu save.
This thing isn't anything close to a prophet at all. Everyone in Old Oakburn had opened themselves up to, welcomed and nurtured a demon.
É um demônio, é um demônio. Ok. Tipo, era óbvio que era um demônio, era um bicho com chifres, cara. Tá ligado? Cabeça de bode, chifres, caralho. Pô, o que as pessoas acharam que era, cara?
The morning after, Old Oakburn woke up to silence. 1,043 inhabitants disappeared overnight. After quick and inconclusive investigations, little evidence was found. The existence and whereabouts of the flutist remained an unanswered enigma. That was until 2003. The search for Old Oakburn's population continues.
Ok. Ok. Puta merda, cagada. Oi. Aqui nós vai dar um grau.
Alright, so in this latest act of the story, we gain access to a leaked evidence tape chronicling the disappearance of an entire mountain town right next to Itazavik called Oakburn. On a random night in 1997, all 1,043 of its inhabitants had vanished from the face of the earth, with the prime suspect never to be found. We're introduced to the Oakburn flutist, an enigmatic presence that had effortlessly won over
tem
the
outra
hearts
cidade
of
que
the
sumiu
entire
também.
town. The townsfolk were so enamored by his mystique and musical prowess that they became mesmerized in a way, wrapped up under a spell of adoration without even knowing it. As the video progresses, we're given messages from an unknown source, warning us of the flutist's true intentions, before we realize that Martha Astor, 16 years after her husband's death, is playing a hand in this investigation. Given the clues from both here and the Starving Five hinting at this agonizing spiritual purgatory, I do wonder what the current state of Martha actually is. Throughout this video, we bear witness to a monolith adorned with a sigil, a circle with 9 triangles that begins to glow
mano, eu fiquei preso. Porra, os buracos que ele fez, que ódio, que ódio.
From what it seems, the interjections that happen, telling us to follow the music, seems to be a stylistic representation of what the people of Oakburn witnessed when entranced beneath the spell. But out of everything, what I find most interesting is that right in the middle of all of this, we're shown a random shot of an IPD police car. Why is it abandoned? And why does this tape make it a point to show us that it's here? We know that this evidence was leaked by an unknown source, and so I've gotta ask, did the Etozovic Police Department know about this before it happened? Is this why the case was closed so rapidly? Again, 1,043 people up and vanished. A monumental case that would undoubtedly have an entire investigative team working on it for
Não
years.
tinha como, pai, não tinha como.
It makes no sense, yet at the same time makes all the sense in the
Não,
world.
foda-se, isso aqui
So
foda-se.
were they involved here? Or is this case truly as unsolved as they claim it is? He knows well his wicked ways.
Ô Guiro, tu já leu o 20th Century Boys, mano? Eu acho que eu já perguntei pra você, tá ligado? Que eu tenho uma tatuagem nessa porra, né? Não lembro o que você respondeu, mas se você não leu, mano, pelo amor de Deus, leia, tá ligado? Não li ainda não. Porra, puta merda. Leia, cara. 20th Century Boys.
In Oakburn Opus 2,
Urgente,
jump
mano.
forward to 2003, peering in on an isolated home 25 miles from Lake Oakburn. We're shown that the home belongs to the Lebedevs, a relative of Alex from the Starving Five. At first, things are quiet. However, something breaks the silence.
Não, nem fudendo, eu vou ficar com esse item, velho. É isso, vou resetar. Tava terminando uns mangá, mano. Puta, para pra ler. Mano, eu tenho duas recomendações. Esse, 20th Century Boys e... Deixa eu ver se eu lembro o nome. Não vou lembrar. Ah, Golden Kamuy, mano. Eu acho. É, Golden Kamuy, pode ler. Golden Kamuy e 20th Century Boys, mano.
We jump to police photographs from December 10th, 2003, 17 years to the day after Ethan's death. Here, we witness the Etozovic Police Department investigating the incident in the Lebedev residence. Yet, it's accompanied with a strange message. The melody crawls in. The voice under the veil commands. And the vessel answers.
What stands before you, Detective Esther, is not a person. I exist incarcerated in a vessel of the arcane. I'll entertain your feeble sense of justice. I'll show you my tale.
Opa.
He knows well his wicked ways.
The melody crawls in, the voice under the veil commands, and the vessel answers. The person that has taken over this tape in hopes of taunting Martha believes themselves to be not a human, but a vessel, guided and manipulated by a force arcane. Contrary to what was implied in the previous video, it seems like the flutist's curse may not simply lead one to their death. Rather, it seems to warp people, turning them unapologetically wicked. December 10th. A call is made to the Etozovic Police Department from the Lebedev household. The caller confessed to having committed murder. Jackson and Oliver Lebedev were dead, their bodies aligned in the dark room. The Lebedev brothers, naturalist photographers of Itazovik, searched to capture the empty landscape of the mountains. The criminal was never identified. For the convenience of this investigation, the killer will be addressed by the pseudonym John Doe. We make it to the third piece of evidence in the Oakburn case involving the Lebedev murders. We're told that Martha Astor had performed a direct interrogatory of the killer.
Qual mangá que você tava
with the
terminando? O
timeline
cara
to
nem
follow.
contou, mano. O cara nem falou.
December 5th, 2003. John Doe is led by the melody of a wind instrument emanating from Lake Oakburn.
Ok, isso pode ser bom, isso pode ser bom. Temos uma estratégia.
From the very first moment the flute touched my mind, I was sure to have been struck by something otherworldly, roaming the depths of the lake.
Near the lake, John Doe encounters a monolith. On the surface of the smooth rock, a symbol was carved, a circle and 9 triangles.
I witnessed, in clear and inscrutable reason, the flute and the man. They taught me wisdom from the bottom of the lake, the drowned city of the millions who rest there. He raised me in that instant as a vessel. The emblem etched upon the rock, the beautifully profane assortment of a circle and 9 triangles suddenly gleamed in crimson hue. The soul wove a web, his desire in an instant made clear. In the flute, I'll discern the will of expansion which I was to provide.
After the encounter, John wanders the mountain for 5 days, allegedly in a deranged state of mind. Oakburn and the incident of 1997 was not the only goal the flutist sought to execute, and wiping 1,043 people off the face of the earth was merely the start of it. John, unlike the millions of others confined to this so-called drowned city, wasn't killed. He was conditioned as a vessel, turned wicked, serving an evil in which he can hardly comprehend. We jump forward 5 days to the night of the murder. December 10th, 2003. John comes across the Lebedev residence.
It's common for many inhabitants of remote areas and hidden places to forget that their front doors are locked. A naive custom, often conditioned by the emptiness surrounding it.
Nope.
Through the window, I beheld his lichen shape. The spectre whispered in evoking horror his unfathomable name. Morpheus.
The name Morpheus in ancient mythology doesn't exist. However, it bears a striking resemblance to Marsyas, a mythological satyr known to have invented the music of the flute. He was known to have played one crafted by the goddess Athena. However, given how his cheeks puffed up when doing so, she cast him and the instrument away in shame. Later on, and filled with undying pride, Marsyas had challenged the god Apollon to a musical contest, yet, unsurprisingly, had lost. And his punishment? He was tied to a tree and flayed alive, before his physical form was banished forever to exist, of all things, as a stream of water. It goes without saying that the parallels here are abundant. Morpheus is Oakburn's interpretation of Marsyas, a much, much more sinister Marsyas, haunting the wilderness with nothing but the hypnotic tune of his flute, leading thousands to their deaths, and entrancing whoever he wants, simply because he can. "11:42 a.m. John Doe furtively strikes the Lebedev brothers. Jackson takes a pickaxe hit to the thigh, snapping the femur, and is left debilitated. Oliver drags Jackson to the darkroom at gunpoint upon performing a suboptimal tourniquet.
Pô, eu gosto do Monsters Lang, vou pegar, foda-se. Eu respirando no microfone aí. É igualzinho. Filha da puta, mano. Não acredito que eu morri igual um idiota. Toda vez essa merda, mano.
Jackson is murdered by pickaxe, and the sigil, in blood, is drawn on the ground.
The sole reason I stand before you, narrating my tale, contributing to your futile pursuit of a comprehensible truth, is to convey you his message. He calls you to the lake, your good friend beneath the veil. Visit the drowned city. Your failure to heed his warning will bring the same fates upon you and the few living folks you love. You will drown, too.
We return to the dark room.
Que sala maldita, mano.
The bodies of Jackson and Oliver lie in parallel, and in the corner, something stares unquietly.
Tô com medo. Dano.
In defiance of John's alleged method of murder, the bodies of Jackson and Oliver were found in contradictory conditions. Agents at the scene first observed vascular marbling, skin discoloration, and bloating in both bodies. An autopsy analysis revealed pulmonary injury, insinuating that drowning was the cause of death. But fixate on that bombshell at the very end, because it effectively throws every single thing we learned from this video on its head.
O meu bagulho.
Upon arrival, police did not discover bodies brutally hacked away by a pickaxe. They did not find evidence of death by gunshot. Oliver and Jackson somehow drowned in their home, 25 miles from Lake Oakburn. As an audience, this revelation leaves us with a conundrum. For the past 14 minutes, we've entertained a killer that was never identified as he outlined the murder of 2 people. He describes in detail how he found them, which weapon was used, even the time they died. Yet, according to the autopsy, this never happened. In a way, we're left to ponder on their true fate, ultimately calling into question the veracity of everything we've seen so far. We witnessed with our own eyes the motivation, the target, the murder, and the corpses, and there's photographic proof that blood trails littered the Lebedev home. This murder definitely happened, so who in the world is lying here? I find it interesting that these pieces of evidence, according to Oakburn Opus 1, were hidden from the public. I also find it interesting that after the disappearance of over 1,000 people, the investigation was supposedly rapidly closed. And I also find it interesting that after the call confessing to the murder was made, 2 police vehicles head out to the Lebedev home, yet only one returns. I think John Doe might be a member of the IPD, and I think the sole reason this happened to him is because he set out to the desolate Lake Oakburn to investigate the mass disappearance. The gunshots we hear aren't done by the brothers. They're done by him. The death of the Lebedevs happened exactly as it was described, yet after it was reported, the police who arrived there were murdered in cold blood. The only one to return was the killer, the vessel led by the flutist, and he's heading straight back into the heart of this investigation. The entire reason Martha Astor is being taunted is because she's the only one taking any interest in Oakburn, yet John, likely corresponding with her day after day, is always one step ahead in making this case nearly impossible for her to crack. The sigil drawn in blood is the key to the flutist's goal of expansion. That was how he was able to manifest inside their home. That is how he can spread his perimeter of influence, and that is the one goal that John will stop at nothing to execute. At this point, it's unclear how far he's going to take this, but I don't have high hopes for Martha or Itazovic at all. Alright, so there we have it. 4 intensely cryptic videos outlining a phenomenon terrorizing a small mountain town, leading to the unexplainable disappearance of thousands. The only connection? Sigils and shapes hinting at the birth of something sinister and an inexplicable grudge against mankind. Now, from what we've seen, this series leaves a ton of questions on the table. Why did the circles target Itazovic? How did the people of Oakburn truly die? What happened to the bodies of the starving five? What is the reality of this drowned city? What truly happened within the Lebedev home? And what actually happens when cast under the spell of the Oakburn sigil? Now, this series as it stands is not over. Given the ending, an Oakburn Opus 3 was teased. However, due to a lack of exposure, Red Diamond had put the project on hiatus. I don't know about you, but I am intensely interested to see how this all ties together. And who knows, perhaps this video right here may be the push to make that happen. Even still, though, I'm gonna do my best to piece everything together here into a cohesive story. There are so many moving parts, but I think we're onto something. To me, the story goes like this. (1986) Itazovic. The town has been afflicted by an otherworldly phenomenon involving circles. It is a regular occurrence, something that happens every year, causing droves of people to fall victim to it. Through flashing lights and strange arcane formations forming over their town, the circles seem to transform those obsessed into formless masses of flesh, and bizarrely, their remains are never found. Oddly, throughout both this and the Starving Five, we see remarks hinting at the fact that the residents of Itazovic live in this frustrating ignorance. Not once do they try to understand this phenomenon.
Foda-se, é hora de resetar,
Run
amigos.
when they're told, which leaves us to wonder
Foda-se.
why. 7 days after Ethan's death, a group of 4 people, Gary Astor, Natasha, Alex Lebedev, and Dmitry Olov, set out to Itazovic, and within just 4 days, are met with a terrible fate.
Vamos mais uma runzinha,
Their
vai.
engine had died, their food gone. Heat becomes a luxury as it escapes the cracks of their paper-thin walls. And most harrowing of all,
Chega desse vídeo.
something had found them.
A gente viu bastante, vimos 1 hora e pouco desse vídeo. Tá bom já. Pelo amor de Deus. Verdade, né? Agora o Vegeta ali se transforma no Super Saiyajin 3, vocês viram?
You ever play Borderlands?
Awesome. No, I don't really. I picked up Death Stranding again. You know what I'm gonna do?
Roguelike de calculadora? Hã?
So, I mean, we have to get to 98. How can you get to 98? You can add 31. that feels like the easiest approach that I can take here. But each of my buttons has uses on it, which is interesting. So, I mean, sure, let's do this. I pressed a plus. We're going to add 31 to this. And then I'm going to hit enter, and that gives us 98. That seems good to me. I have gained some coins, and now we have a shop. Oh, how very interesting. Okay. So, raise a number to the power of 2. Okay. I mean, I can see this being really valuable, to be honest. But what would you put this on? I feel like I don't have a good thought there yet. Part of me wants to just skip and move on to the next round, save my money, because I feel like generates needed number from last round. Interesting, that's cool too. So it would be, I would get 98 again. Would I just, am I at 98 to start? Divide by 12? Oh, what are we doing? That puts us to 0. Okay. And then I'll just add 89. I'm not proud of that solution, okay? All things considered, it wasn't that bad of a solution, but I'm not proud of it. Cuts first digit of needed number. That's so strong, man. I mean,
Doideira.
I'm Jex Blackmore, national spokesperson of the Satanic Temple. It is my hope that we can encourage people to see this film and really undergo a transformation and inspire a satanic experience.
Que beleza, cara, que idiotice. Por que descer pra BC soa macabra?
Tempo que foi lançada essa música aqui, chamada Descer pra
Nós vai descer!
Deus do DRSL. E muitos comentários nas redes sociais são falando
Nossa,
que,
por favor, eu quero saber por que ela soa macabra.
Essa música é amaldiçoada. Porque apesar dela ser bem dançante e ser uma mistura de vários estilos musicais, como você vai entender nesse vídeo, ela passa uma sensação meio desconfortante. E eu decidi investigar aqui com vocês pra gente entender por que Descer pra BC é tão amaldiçoado assim.
Os caras têm medo de descer pra BC, mano, é isso.
E pra entender isso, a gente tem que entender primeiro
Tá
sobre
que
uma
pariu.
coisa muito importante. A cadência andaluza. Na música, uma cadência é basicamente a sequência de acordes que tem na harmonia da música. E tem
Nós vai
algumas que
descer pra BC
repetem
da
os estilos
Silva.
musicais, ou são tão marcantes que elas até acabam recebendo
Caralho,
nome.
sim,
E olha
mano.
só, a gente vai longe aqui, mano. Que no flamenco existe uma cadência que é muito importante, que ela é conhecida aí popularmente como a cadência andaluza. Que é essa aqui que você escuta, por exemplo, nesse flamenco e em vários outros. E essa cadência claramente não é usada apenas no flamenco, ela já foi usada em muitas e muitas músicas que você conhece.
Hit the road, Jack. E talvez você conheça essa música aqui. Só que a original, que chama 16 Tons, do Tennessee Ernie Ford, ela tem outra pegada, outra progressão harmônica, outra cadência, que também é essa mesma.
I was born one morning when the sun didn't shine. I picked up my shovel and I walked to the mine. I loaded 16 tons, a number 9.
E não menos importante, na verdade a mais importante, esta música aqui. Que se você é muito novo, você talvez nunca ouviu, ou talvez viu alguma tia sua dançando essa música.
Meu Deus, eu tô me sentindo muito velho agora. Meu Deus, esse cara me atacou de graça, cara.
Primeira vez falou, mas espera aí, é a mesma coisa de vai descer, vai descer. Porque, mano, é uma interpolação essa música. Ela literalmente
Nós vai descer lá pra BC no finalzinho do ano.
Tá meio tom abaixo.
Caralho, pode pá, mano.
Roupagem, certo? Você consegue ver até na
Nós vai descer pra BC é a sererê.
A sererê de 2002 já é uma versão, certo? Que a sererê muda a letra, na verdade tá meio tom abaixo.
Caralho, é verdade, mano.
Roupagem, certo? Você consegue ver
Puta
até na linha de
merda.
baixo aqui da sererê, que essa sererê de 2002 já é uma versão de uma outra música mais antiga.
Sim.
É a antropofagia, o homem que engole o próprio homem. Você vê aqui no baixo da sererê 2002. Olha só. E olha o baixo da DC pra BC, só que é mais lento, né? É a mesma linha de baixo, só que também lembra um pouco o baixo de piseiro. A gente vai falar disso daqui a pouco. Então essa cadência andaluza,
Que
ela
foda,
é a que é
cara.
usada na DC pra BC, assim como é usada na sererê. E outro nome pra essa cadência andaluza é um tetracorde, né? 4 acordes, frígio diatônico. Porque a gente não tem somente as escalas maiores e menores. A gente tem várias escalas que são os chamados modos gregos, que vão te dar diversas sensações diferentes, usando, entre aspas, as mesmas notas. E o modo frígio é um dos mais tensos que tem e que dá essa sensação um pouco árabe até, e uma sensação meio flamenca também. Essa aqui seria a escala menor normal, que seria o modo eólio. Esse aqui seria o modo frígio. E só tem uma nota de diferença, olha só, que é o Mi, que ele vira um Mi bemol na escala no modo frígio, se a gente tiver em Ré menor no caso, né, o Ré frígio.
Plot twist do BC, velho, exato, mano. Plot twist total, tô impressionado, mano.
A gente tá em Lá frígio, então ele começa aqui no Ré, faz... Nós vai descer, vai descer, nós vai descer, vai descer, vai descer. Então são 4 acordes que vão descendo pra BC.
Descendo
por
pra
vez,
BC.
eles vão nesse sentido descendente mesmo, até chegar no mais tenso, que vai ser... Esse Lá, que normalmente nos modos ali menores, né, se fosse tipo Ré menor, esse Lá aqui seria menor, ele soaria assim, ó. Só que no descer pra BC, porque ele é maior, coloca até a sétima ali no meio. Então você pode olhar dessa forma, como se você tetracorde frígio, que vai dar essa tensão bem grande. Você sente ali. Ou você pode ver como estando em Ré menor. E pegando esse acorde aqui, emprestado do Ré menor harmônico, que é muito comum de ser usado no sertanejo, mano. As primeiras vezes que eu ouvi isso sendo feito, eu falei, nossa, que legal. Foi na aquele 1% do Marcos e Belucci, em que ele fala, esse é meu defeito.
Esse é meu defeito.
Então isso já é algo comum de ser usado no sertanejo. E na música brasileira, o modo
mixolídio, que tem como ênfase esse mesmo acorde que mostrei agora.
é usado principalmente na música nordestina, as músicas do Luiz Gonzaga, tem vários de modo
mixolídio,
de vários outros artistas também. E na música sertaneja tem, por exemplo, a Chora Viola do Tião Carreiro, que é também no modo
mixolídio.
Eu não caio do cavalo, nem do burro e nem do gaio. Ganho dinheiro cantando.
Então essa tensão já tá muito presente em vários estilos musicais brasileiros. E, mano, e se eu me lembro bem, esse é a Sererê em 2002, quando saiu e tudo mais, falou assim, pô, essa música aí parece de invocação, tá invocando aí os bichos ruins.
Parece, né? Os caras falavam isso mesmo.
Já tá vindo daí que essa música
falava isso mesmo, eu vivi, eu tava lá, mano. Você não tava, Guirão, mas eu tava, tá ligado?
Que soa algo bem estrangeiro, digamos assim. Mas também tem essa mistura maluca da
própria pegar água aqui
dessa música, mano. Mas que estilo de música é esse? Isso é um funk? Isso é um sertanejo? Isso é um piseiro? Isso é algum estilo de house, EDM? E a resposta é sim. Se bem que o sertanejo ultimamente, né, todo estilo musical que você vê por aí, é só você colocar um chapéu, uma bota, às vezes uma fivela, e falar de roça e caminhonete e já tá sendo considerado sertanejo. Seja reggaeton, funk rave, piseiro e tudo mais. É apenas uma observação, não necessariamente uma crítica, ok? É uma crítica, sim. Então essa música, você repara que ela começa com uma batida meio de dubstep misturada com o estilo dançante dos anos 2000, junto de um house. E meio que um hip hop dos 80 também. E do nada entra uma guitarrinha de piseiro.
Nossa, pode pá.
E lembra que a gente tava comentando sobre a linha de baixo da Sererê, a Ragatanga original, 2002 aqui do Brasil? A linha de baixo do piseiro costuma ser... E olha aqui a linha de baixo da DC pra BC.
Piseiro. Fodendo piseiro.
Tem um baixo aqui no meio, né? Um pum, que é bem típico das bass music, né? E claro, uma bateria bem pesada ali de dubstep meio house.
Caralho, de primeira.
E esse estilo, basicamente, ali do refrão, se ele tivesse uma marcação um pouquinho mais forte, que não fosse numa sanfona, que a gente vai falar sobre isso, ela poderia ser considerado, talvez seja considerado, um electrofunk ou desande, que é um estilo de
isso aqui é muito bom, né, mano?
Popular,
não tem como.
É justamente essa mistura de house e dubstep com o funk. Só que aqui, em vez de ter uma marcação tipo tchá, 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 mais típica do funk, essa marcação é feita com os acordes da música numa sanfona. E ele tem um ritmo já bem quebrado, ó.
Nossa, verdade. Maluquice.
Buscando esse timbre aí da sanfona muito usado em alguns estilos de sertanejo. Então você tá misturando 1001 estilos diferentes, junto dessa tensão aí da cadência andaluza. E pra finalizar tudo, que é o que eu acho que mais busca essa sensação de você tá num culto demoníaco, é o vocal, mano. Não tem como. A interpretação ali...
Mas vai descer!
Eu não sei quando que começaram isso, mano, de fazer essa vai descer no sertanejo, mano. Eu lembro do que o Jades e Jadson fazia isso.
Não sei se era pra
nossa, verdade.
Só que me parece ser meio que o timbre dele mesmo, tá ligado? Só começou a dar uma forçada na barra, na minha opinião. Você escuta um pouco desse timbre, né? Que nem no sertanejo raiz. Talvez seja uma tentativa de replicar aquele timbre, tipo do Tião Carreiro e de outros cantores da época, né? De moda de viola. Mas, mano, a primeira vez que ele fala, nós vai descer, tem um vocal de fundo, mano, parecendo um coro de igreja. Mas tá muito dark, mano. Não tá tipo um bagulho de igreja, tipo, pô, vamos louvar aqui. Vai descer. Vai descer. E a segunda voz também tem hora que ela tá pra baixo, tem hora que ela tá pra cima. Tem hora que é pedazinho de ano. Aqui tá pra baixo, ó. E aqui tá pra cima. Então assim, na minha opinião, a progressão de acordes, o timbre da sanfona ali no refrão, a interpretação vocal, a mistura de 51 mil estilos musicais, foi a mistura perfeita ou amaldiçoada pra ter essa sensação que essa música passa, mano. Que sério, tipo, é um bagulho dançante? É, mas é uma sensação muito esquisita, mano. Eu não sei nem dizer, eu não vou nem mexer com isso, porque vai, sei lá, que os caras começam, faz uma diss pra mim aí, nesse formato aí, mano, eu vou ficar amaldiçoado pro resto da minha vida. Mas tipo assim, vamos falar sério aqui, a música foi bem produzida, mano, foi bem feita essa mistura de vários estilos musicais, mas é algo que realmente, pra quem não costuma escutar esse estilo, esse toque sertanejo no meio, é algo bem esquisito, mas...
Que não costuma descer pra BC.
A música tá aí bombando, tá no top 5 do Brasil quando eu tô gravando esse vídeo. Então é isso, mano, vamos descer, vai descer. Então é isso aí, muito obrigado por você que assistiu esse vídeo, espero que tenha mais esclarecido tudo que tá acontecendo nessa música. E se você gostou desse vídeo, já comenta aqui embaixo se você quer mais alguma investigação, né, porque a última que eu fiz...
Foda, tá? Foda, tá?
Só tão esquisita. E se inscreve no canal, manda pro seu amigo, mano, que a gente tá com a meta aqui pra 2020.
Like, I'm just being honest with you. Like, whenever I would go to, like, certain countries, their weed was so fucking garbage. We would get some hash, and the hash would, like, take it to another level.
Do you find yourself getting in arguments with a lot of Europeans about putting tobacco in their joint?
Shit.
I do too.
Wait, what is this?
They put fucking cigarettes in they fucking weed, and when you hit it, it's like a hell of a head rush. If you're not careful, that shit'll blow your fucking head off.
Oh, it's crazy.
Why would they ruin weed with tobacco?
That's exactly what they think. Like, oh, I'm taking it and kind of expanding it and stretching it out and taking a little bit of weed.
It's a money thing, maybe, too.
And then they put a little bit of weed and a lot of bit of fucking tobacco.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take tobacco into your lungs, right?
No.
Fuck no.
But it also doesn't get you high the same way.
It gives you a head rush. It's fucking you up.
Because if I took a hit of a cigarette like in that way and I went...
Yes.
The whole chest gonna blow up.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Yeah.
Like, I'm just being honest with you. Like, whenever I would go to, like, certain countries, their weed was so fucking garbage. We would get some hash and the...
Vamos tentar achar algo.
Not like this! No! Out of gas? Don't throw it out! Flip it over and refill it. Grab your can of butane, give it a couple shakes, there's a trick. Line up the holes perfectly. Keep it straight, bro! Push down. 1, 2, 3. Let go. One little burp. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now just let it warm up for a moment. And you're good to go. Now you know, bro!
Caralho. Vamos lá. Procurar alguma coisa interessante pra gente ver. The urge to kill your own consciousness.
I've been playing a lot of Balatro.
Yeah, boy.
While I've been visiting my family. A lot of Balatro. It's a roguelike. I never really have problems with addictions, but roguelikes, those really get me. And I know I say I don't have problems with addictions. I mean, I drink caffeine and I do nicotine, but like I never like look at those parts of my life and think this is a bad thing. I got to stop this. But roguelikes, that's an addiction. That's a problem. I have consistently known that this is a problem about my life for like forever, and it's probably something I'll struggle with until I die. Playing video games, but it's not just playing video games. It's playing video games and also having a YouTube video play on the second half of my screen.
Oh, família, e se eu pegar cafezinho?
So, yeah, this has always been an issue for me.
Papo, se eu pegar cafezinho, mano.
Why I do this. It's because it kills my consciousness. That's why I play video games. It's because I'm not thinking about my life. I get to channel 100% of my thoughts into playing a video game. But a video game doesn't take up 100% of my thoughts. It's not enough. It takes up 80% of my thoughts. The other 20%, I still have background processes running where I'm trying to solve the problems that are going on in my life. My sensitivity to the world has not been drowned out, totally suffocated. So I have to put on a YouTube video to kill the other 20%. That's what the YouTube video is for. The YouTube video, if it's an informational video, is not, the point of it is not give me information. I don't care about the information. I don't care about the Kurtzegard video playing.
Literalmente
I
eu.
don't care about the real life lore video playing on my second window. The only reason that's there is to kill 20% of my consciousness.
Literalmente eu, mano. Literalmente o que eu tô fazendo agora.
80% of it on the roguelike Balatro. And this has all made me think about art and artists and the sort of sensitivity that artists tend to have towards their reality and their own consciousness, which is that if you're an artist and you're making good art and you're someone who's capable of making good art, you probably have a sort of perceptive power about you. That exact sensitivity, the sensitivity that allows you to make great art, is the same sensitivity.
Mano, é do vídeo esse trovão?
In their own consciousness, which is that if you're an artist and you're making good art and you're someone who's capable of making good art, you probably have a sort of perceptive artist and you're making good art and you're someone who's capable of making good art, you probably have a sort of perceptive power about you. That exact, you're someone who's capable of reality in their own consciousness, which is that if you're an artist and you're making good art and you're someone who's capable of making good art, you probably have a sort of perceptive power about you. That exact sensitivity, the sensitivity that allows you to make great art, is the same sensitivity that makes you too sensitive to reality. Your own consciousness becomes painful, and then you want to drown it out with drugs, or video games, or sex, or distraction.
Guilty as fuck, tá ligado?
Idea from, by the way, I read this quote and I was like,
Guilty
damn,
as
true.
fuck.
This is facts, actually. It's from the Rick Rubin book that all the annoying people have. Okay, yeah, I read a book. Oops. I mean, it's not really a coincidence that all these famous pop stars die of overdoses. It's not a coincidence that a lot of the people that you see blow up online also become schizophrenic and mentally ill or whatever, and then go insane on the internet.
Tô quase lá, família, tô quase lá. Eu tô quase lá. Eu amaldiçoo aquele que teve a ideia de colocar 2 boss no gênero Souls-like. Pô, não, peraí, Guiro, peraí. Isso eu posso te explicar, isso eu posso te falar com propriedade, porque eu tava lá quando as coisas estavam sendo criadas, tá ligado, mano? Eu tava lá, tenho 10 anos a mais que você, tá ligado? Mano, isso aí é um clássico, tá ligado? Isso é um clássico, só que funciona como? E o roguelike não, perdão. Os jogos Souls-like, principalmente Dark Souls, eles são homenagens, na verdade, a jogos muito mais antigos, tá ligado? Ou como eles funcionam. A lógica deles é uma homenagem a jogos muito mais antigos. Então, antigamente, mano, tu tinha um boss, velho, e você ficava tipo, mano, no boss num jogo de Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, por exemplo. E tu tinha um boss e tu ficava tipo, mano, caralho, esse boss é muito foda, tá ligado? E tu ficava um tempão pra passar dele, pai, não sei o quê. E boa, tá ligado? 2 coisas aconteciam com esse boss, normalmente no mesmo jogo até, tá ligado? Às vezes não, mas normalmente sim, tá ligado? Eu lembro de um jogo, por exemplo, consigo te dar um exemplo de um jogo de cabeça aqui que faz Splatterhouse, mano. Splatterhouse acho que 3, inclusive. Deixa eu ver se é o 3. Splatterhouse 3. Baixa o emulador de Mega Drive e joga Splatterhouse 3, que é um jogaço, inclusive, e é, tipo, isso que eu tô falando é perfeito no Splatterhouse 3, mano. O primeiro boss do Splatterhouse 3 é bem difícil. É um jogo bem difícil, tá ligado? É um jogo bem difícil. O primeiro boss do Splatterhouse 3 é bem difícil, tá ligado? E... Mano, conheço aquele do PS3. Mas não é, tipo, eu tô falando do Mega Drive lá bem antes, tá ligado? Mas é a mesma parada, máscara do Jason, pá. O primeiro boss é bem difícil, mano. Eventualmente, esse boss, você encontra ele em dupla. Muito mais pra frente no jogo, você com mais recursos, mais dano, sabendo melhor o que você faz. E não é tão difícil a vez que você encontra 2, tá ligado? Porque você já tá mais esperto e tal. É um jeito dos developers te jogarem na cara, tipo, olha, você tá progredindo, tá ligado? O jogo é muito difícil, Splatterhouse 3. Todos os Splatterhouse são, tá ligado? Mas você fica tipo, caralho, mano, olha só, eu progredi. Você sente a progressão, tá ligado? É um jogo te falando, olha só até onde você chegou, tá ligado? Você conseguiu derrotar 2 desses filha da puta, tá ligado, mano? Mesmo sendo muito, muito difícil. Muitas vezes. E outra coisa que acontece que eu acho maneiro, e do Dark Souls faz isso um pouco, às vezes até ao contrário, na verdade, né? Ele faz ele transforma esses inimigos... O Bloodborne tem muito disso. Ele transforma esses inimigos em inimigos comuns, mano. Então você pode encontrar o boss que você enfrentou como um inimigo comum andando por aí, tá ligado? E eu acho isso muito foda. São termômetros de progressão, tá ligado, mano? São termômetros de progressão. No Demon Souls tem o Vanguard Demon, que é o primeiro boss do jogo, que é pra você morrer pra ele. Mais pra frente, em uma das fases, ele tá andando por aí como um inimigo comum no mapa, tá ligado? Isso é muito, muito maneiro, tá ligado, mano? Então, tipo, tem toda uma lógica de jogo antigo, na real. Essa lógica, essa ideia é muito, muito antiga, tá ligado? É quase arcade, tá ligado, mano? É muito legal. Eu gosto disso, tá ligado? Eu gosto. Eu acho maneiro porque, pô, eu cresci jogando jogo de Mega Drive, até jogo de Play 1, tá ligado? Que Play 1 era, mano. Nossa, Play 1 era diferente. A lógica dos jogos de Play 1 era. O Play 1 foi muito experimental, mano. Fora que tinha muito jogo. Play 1 tem, tipo, acho que, mano, mais de 10 vezes o número de jogos do Nintendo 64, tá ligado, velho? Não sei te dizer o número exato. Mano, eu acho que eu vou fazer um cafezinho ali. Já volto. Aguenta aí. Voltei! Eu voltei! Tem alguém? Alô? Alguém aí que vai descer para BC?
Experience depression than non-artistic people. But realistically, that's probably just because they're all poor. So, you know, I don't really know what to make of those stats. And I'm not telling you this to justify why you're a miserable artist, okay? It's not an excuse for being a miserable artist. It's an explanation. I don't think you need to be depressed to be an artist. I don't think you should be depressed. I don't think you should use this as a justification for being depressed just because other people are depressed. You can just be a content artist. It's totally possible. I'm most content when I'm making art. But maybe being aware of this desire to kill your own consciousness can be helpful, because when you're killing your own consciousness by playing video games or by doing drugs or by distracting yourself with stupid shit, next time you're doing that, you can maybe ask yourself, why am I doing this? Oh right, it's because I don't want to be conscious. I sometimes think that the end goal of all conscious beings is to destroy their own
Iremos eventualmente, Guiro. Eventualmente iremos, cara.
I need to stop being an artist now. I need to somehow cut this.
Tu joga RPG de mesa, Guiro?
That malignant tumor that makes me make art. I need to throw that in the trash. And what you're really getting at when you say stuff like that, when you think stuff like that, when you have that impulse, is this awareness towards reality needs to die. And that is kind of the problem when you try to kill the part of you that wants to be an artist. Trying to kill your own awareness of
Tu joga RPG de mesa, mano?
That is you. You are your awareness of reality, so that's straight up just suicide. Anyways, for me, it's playing video games. I know a lot of you have healthy relationships with video games. I just don't. There's probably some way of playing video games in a way that isn't suicide, but it is for me every time I try it. Oops. I have calls. They're available in January, $500 and then we get 4 calls together for the month of January. And I'll help you with whatever creative project you're going through.
Puta que pariu.
I was on Twitter lately, or X as the cool kids call it. I'm actually the first person with Asperger's.
Nunca jogou, mano? Pô, bora. Você tem que só uma coisa, tá ligado? Superar o cringe.
So I was bored the other day and decided to look through Steam, and I came across this fun-looking game called Web Fishing. It was only $5, so I did some quick research and found that not only can I be a dog and cat who fishes, but I can also gamble and smoke seaweed. So immediately I was in. And as always, if you guys like the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps.
Calma lá, Renato, tô prestando atenção mais no boss. Perguntei se tu joga RPG de mesa, mano, mas tipo, pô, não precisa responder rápido, tá ligado? Se você estiver concentrado, tá safe, guys. Pô. Web fishing. Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers. O balatro de Blackjack. Nossa, Balatra vai ser uma revolução, né, mano? Vai ver tanto jogo Roguelike, tipo, de jogos tradicionais de mesa, né? Puta merda. Eu quero mais Balatro. Dungeon Crawler. Eu quero mais roguelikes de jogos de azar, mano. É isso na verdade. É isso. Stacklands. Huh. Diceomancer. Nossa, isso aqui parece muito louco. Cara, isso realmente parece muito da hora. Diceomancer. Eu vou fazer o seguinte, eu vou... Lista de desejos desse motherfucker. Roguelike Deck Building Game. Eu gosto muito de roguelikes, gosto muito de deck building games. Diceomancer. Eu quero gastar dinheiro. Ah, caralho, o boss Mega 8 tirou toda a minha vida. Você tá jogando o que, mano? Bloodborne? Pelo menos não é Demon Souls, mano. Demon Souls tinha um boss que te agarrava e te tirava um nível, mano. 1 ou 2 níveis. Te tirava 2 níveis. Cara. Bicho te agarrava e te tirava 2 níveis, mano. Dark Souls 3? Boa. Gosto muito também.
We weren't bluffing.
Os trailers de Balatro são muito bons, né, mano?
Have I heard of the new Balatro tech?
Vamos ver.
No. Am I missing new tech? When you're on a blind, the description of misprint can show something like number sign at 11D, which means the top card of your deck is Jack and Diamond. What?
Wow.
Does it say 5D? Has this been there the whole time and no one noticed? There's no way. Why didn't I know about this?
Mano! Guiro, depois vê isso aqui, velho. Tá no chat, mano. Caralho!
That's so crazy. So you're saying, when I discard here, the first card I draw is going to be 4 of spades? Is that what I'm seeing? 4S? Dude, I can't. How do I operate with this knowledge? You can do it from your collection, too. So you don't even need the card. Local Thunk just sitting back and laughing for months. We're fools. All of us. You didn't realize it meant anything, you thought it was just random? You and every other person on Earth until yesterday. That was always deliberate. Apparently it was always there. It's blowing my mind. I can't believe it. This was probably in the demo, too, because Misprint was a demo card. Do I have to go back and watch my VOD from like 7 months ago and see that it was right in front of my eyes the whole time? My whole world is shook. You missed the beginning? Somebody figured out, I don't know who, I wish I could give credit. It's Tamer Soup 625 in the Balatro Discord. Thank you, Mr. Soup.
Vamos procurar roguelikes novos.
It's that time of the year. Cold weather, snow, the existential dread of another year passing and your life going by as a mere speck of dust in the grand scheme of the universe. You know, the usual things. But if anything is certain in this world, it's that every year we'll have a lot of incredible video games released, and this year is no different. I love video games as much as the next person. I mean, look at all these videos on this channel and all the games I have on Steam. But one of my favorite genres is roguelites. And in the past 2 years, I've highlighted my top 10 roguelites of the year, so it's basically a tradition at this point. Let's talk about my 10 favorite roguelites of the year. Just remember, this is my list, and if I missed your favorite of the year, just yell at me in the comments. Just don't be mean. Please. Starting this list off is the least popular roguelite in terms of reviews, and I called it my sleeper pick of the Steam Next Fest in October, and it's Wormhole. It was released on October 31st, and this game is based off the classic Nokia phone game Snake, but with a retro arcade feel and roguelite elements. It has a couple modes with a standard mode and endless. You have a few different worm options to choose from with different starting abilities, and inside your run you gain more abilities to help your worm. Obviously your worm grows a lot bigger the further into a run you are, but it's incredibly easy to pick up, and you can tell this game is made with a lot of love. Everything just fits perfectly. Gameplay is smooth and creative. The graphics are very appealing and has a whole lot of different color palettes that you can choose from, and just the soundtrack is top tier.
Caralho, parece da hora esse roguelike do jogo da cobrinha, mano.
At number 9, we have a game that was technically released in 2023, but only on the Apple Arcade, and it's TMNT Splintered Fate. It was released on the Switch on July 17th of 2024, and then on the PC on November 6th. With it releasing on console this year, I decided to add it to the list because it's genuinely a good time. Clearly, the game reminds you of Hades with its isometric combat, and yeah, it feels like it. You can play as one of the 4 Ninja Turtles, and each has their own starting inspiration, moveset, and special attack. You battle through 4 biomes, gaining upgrades and meta progression tokens. I have a lot to say about this game, but I actually did make a full video talking
Vamos pro Enter the Gungeon, vai?
overall,
Pouquinho.
this game does have a few
Mostrar meu
problems,
save pra
lack of
vocês.
enemy variety, boring meta progression, and a couple unfair difficulty enhancers for bosses. But the gameplay is very fun.
Ligar no
and the variety
videogame.
in a run in terms of upgrades is fun. The voice acting is also top tier, and the story is not that bad. Now, it's not as good as something like Hades, but I did enjoy my time with this game in like the 20 hours or so I played, and I'd say it is the 9th best roguelike.
Eu me adaptei ao boss e me desviei de todos os ataques, mano. Qual boss que era? Qual boss que era? Vou te julgar. Aqueles 2 demônios. Ah, tá. Verdade, você falou que era 2, né? Pode ir pá. Cadê? Enter the Gungeon. Nossa, tem que continuar Marvel Midnight Suns, né, mano? Pelo amor de Deus, preciso mesmo. Aqui. Tenho 306 horas de Enter the Gungeon, mano. Puta merda, velho. Saiu em 2016, mano. Caralho, abril de 2016. Você pode pôr, peguei Cult of the Lamb também. Returnal é um puta roguelike bom, mano. Returnal é muito bom, velho. Scourgebringer eu gostei também, bastante. Atomic Corpus eu gostei, mas não tanto. Olha Slay the Spire, deixa eu baixar também essa porra. Nossa, Slay the Spire pesa menos do que o... Menos do que o Enter the Gungeon, caralho. É, só a Lucy tá jogando Returnal. Jogaço Returnal, tá? Preciso voltar a jogar Returnal. Acho que eu vou baixar, hein? Eu vou baixar Returnal, hein, mano. Só preciso entrar na conta do meu amigo. Deixa eu ver se ele tá online. Nope. Deixa eu entrar na conta dele e baixar o Returnal. Enter de caralho. Enter de caralho aqui, mano. Ué? Pera aí. Ah, tá. Returnal não tem na Plus? Acho que não. Eu não tenho as Plus fodona lá, tá ligado? Deixa eu ver se tem essa senha salva. Pera aí. Deixa eu abrir meu Telegram. Não tem, merda. Precisar que meu amigo me mande a senha depois. De boa.
Like that I've played this year that did release this year. Rogue Waters is at number 8, and it's one of the more unique roguelites on this list because it's a turn-based tactics game. It was released September 30th, and you play as Captain Cutter, and you recruit specialty pirates to your crew who have their own movesets and skill tree. You battle through 3 acts of a story trying to gain revenge on your old Captain Blackbone. The roguelite elements are strong with upgrades because after every run you gain gold and glass. You use these to upgrade your ships, starting cannons, modules, and even your crew. The runs are really simple. You can do a run to just upgrade and not worry about the story.
Não tem esse jogo pra Play 5, mano. Versão de Play 5.
I do think this game lacks
muito velho,
replayability once the story is done and you have everything upgraded, but the game itself is a lot of fun and the tactics will really make you think at times for the optimal play. Before you even do tactics combat, you also have turn-based ship combat where you need to decide what you want to attack on your opponent's ship. Take out their crew, their modules, or their cannons. It's really up to you. I love a good tactics game, and this is a good tactics game. I will say it does take a little bit to get into because the first couple runs you have 0 upgrades and you just get demolished. But once you get it going, it's a lot of fun. If anything happened in 2024, it was the year of a lot of simple card and table games becoming roguelites. There's a few not on this list like Dice and Fold and Rack and Slay, which are very good games in their own regards, but they just slightly missed the mark.
Deixa eu mostrar o bridge pra você.
But then there's Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers, my 7th favorite roguelite of the year. It was released August 8th, and this is basically the card game.
Paradoxo, Bullet, Marine, matei o passado dele já. Piloto, matei o passado. Convicta, matei o passado. Robô, ainda não fiz o passado. E The Hunter, matei o passado também.
Bit crazy towards the end game when you have all these crazy and wacky cards changing the game and your opponent is swapping with you like crazy, but it's a lot of fun. Every suit has their own benefits if you can score 21 of them, and the game has a lot of cards to really impact a run and have a lot of variety in a run besides just a simple game of blackjack. I will say this is a hard game and has a lot of RNG involved, which stands for random number generator. A lot of RNG equals a lot of luck is needed. But with that said, it's still a very solid experience, and once you figure out the game a little bit, it's very addictive and very easy to just jump in and play a run. Number 6 is Spiritfall, the first game on this list to sneak out of early access this year. It was released February 28th, and this game is kind of like a small combination of Dead Cells, Super Smash Bros, and a little bit of Hades. Yeah, it's weird, but in a good way. You have different starting weapons that all have their own unique moveset, and inside your your run, you battle through multiple biomes, gaining upgrades in a Hades-esque style selection, gaining currencies for stores, and even occasionally have a platform fight for more upgrades and currencies. The gameplay is smooth and fluid and just feels nice. Almost every combo gives you satisfaction while juggling enemies, and the variety inside a run is very high with build potential. Even outside of a run has so much with multiple different skill trees that doesn't make you feel super overpowered. This is just straight up a great single player platform fighter. The next 5 games could all potentially be number 1, so it's safe to say that these next 5 are all incredibly hard for me to pick.
Eu liberei botas balísticas.
Number 5 is Shogun's Showdown. It launched out of early access on September 5th, and it's become one of my go-to Steam Deck games. Runs can take 30 minutes, and it's just so satisfying when you get this game going. This is another turn-based game with some deck-building elements. You have multiple characters to play as, granted you need to unlock them, but inside a run you go through a handful of worlds, and each world has a few levels filled with waves of enemies, and you just need to kill them. You get cards that act as your weapons, and they have a cooldown once you've used them. But the turns go very, very fast. There's a lot of strategy involved with this, as you need to plan out what the optimal time is to attack an enemy.
Aqui já não tem mais nada pra comprar.
After each level, you get a free upgrade on one of your cards, or you get to pick another free card. You also have shops after each biome, tons of potions, and just a lot of cards and relics to unlock in between runs. Me talking about this game isn't doing it justice. This could easily be one of the best roguelites ever for me once I get more hours into it. The pure dopamine that you get from just comboing and killing 4 enemies in a single turn by having all your cards placed perfectly, oh, this game is incredible. Coming in at number 4 is another game that left early access, Raven's Watch. This game released September 26th, and the dev team behind this game also made Curse of the Dead Gods, which is another challenging roguelite, but clearly similar art style. In Raven's Watch, you play as one of 9 characters from beloved fairy tales and go through 3 chapters, each one capping at about 20 minutes and ending with a boss fight. In each chapter, you level up, gain new abilities for your character, and buff their starting abilities. Every biome is filled with unique, challenging enemies, small side quests to do, and a
Pra mim só falta craftar aquela bala ceia que mata o passado, né?
All the events typically involve fighting a lot of enemies, and the combat personally reminds me of a MOBA like League of Legends, with you relying on cooldowns a lot, but in a more roguelite fashion.
Mano, eu tenho 300 horas de canjão. Puta que pariu.
More by leveling up, and genuinely, I wasn't even gonna pick this game up when it got out of 1.0. I only played a few rounds in early access, but the runs are so engaging and fun. Every character is so unique and offers a different playstyle to master. It's just a great time. I only won a couple runs and never even touched the difficulty enhancers, but I think this game is just incredibly well made, yet very challenging and so easy to sink a lot of time into. It also plays very, very well in co-op, I hear. Don't have any friends to play with, but trust me on that, I'm sure it's great. It wouldn't be a roguelite list without a Horde Survivor style game, and at number 3 is probably my favorite Horde Survivor that was released out of early access this year on September 24th, and it's Halls of Torment.
Vou dar quick return aqui.
Perfect in this genre. It has a lot of playable characters to unlock, which turns it into a lot of different playstyles with different upgrades. Has a lot of variety in items to buff you before a run and help you.
As armas eu tenho. Faltam várias, na real, faltam várias, mas eu tenho quase todas. Tem muita arma, mano. Nossa.
And it has a more unique difficulty enhancer with
muito item também.
I love the way it works. If you play better and avoid taking a lot of damage, the run will get harder if you have it on. It does take a little bit to unlock, but the uniqueness to it is a lot of fun. Halls of Torment has so much
Inimigo eu já vi todos.
meta progression, which is pretty simple, but in a
chefões já vi todos também, menos alguns.
Variety in a run, and just so many right choices with development. It's a must-play Horde Survivor, and I will always suggest it. Yep, number 2 is Peglin, which people will say is an interesting choice, but it is another great game that left early access this year on August 27th. I fell in love with this game this year. It's another one that I love to play on my Steam Deck, and it's just so much fun to me. I will say the game does have some negatives with how much RNG is involved once you start playing on higher difficulties, but the gameplay is so addicting to me. You play as a little green goblin and throw an orb down a board in a pachinko fashion style, and the more pegs you hit, the more damage you do. It's simple, and every orb has
Peraí, meu amigo mandou o bagulho que eu preciso. Peraí.
variety in your run. The variety may not be as deep as other games on this list, but the simplicity of just throwing an orb and watching it do a lot of damage, it's something I just love. You can unlock 3 other characters that all have a different playstyle to them, and the difficulty enhancers will help keep you coming back to an extent. But like I said earlier, the higher you get with the difficulty enhancers, the more RNG is involved to actually win a run. But it's one of the easiest roguelites to just pick up and lose 3 hours to. Now, before we get to number 1, I always like to shout out a few games that released into early access this year that you should keep your eye on. First is Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. It's a horde survivor, but a more unique one that has you focusing more on resource collecting than just killing enemies. 4 playable characters, all with different starting buffs, tons of upgrades and difficulty enhancers. Another horde survivor that will be one of my favorites when it's all said and done. Next is Windblown. It's made by Motion Twin, the people who made Dead Cells, and this game is pretty freaking magical. You go through the vortex as one of many animals. They all have the same stats, so that's just cosmetic, but you battle through multiple biomes while collecting memories for new abilities and weapons, and gaining cogs for meta progression. Like Dead Cells, this game is incredibly hard, but incredibly fun. And it also has co-op if that's your jam. And of course we have Hades.
Pronto, meu amigo aprovou lá.
God Power and sequel to Hades. Of course I'm going to mention this in an early access section. This game plays just as well as Hades and has just as much content as Hades, and it's only in early access. The core combat is still the same with a few new exceptions. The graphics are better, the voice acting and story is still top tier, and it's a game everyone will play when it's
Nossa, ele tem Diablo 4, mano. Pode pá.
So many early
E Diablo 3
access
também.
this year. I'm just going to quickly mention a few more before we get to number 1. I'm sorry, there's so many great games that came out this year. Drill Core is an incredible strategy game, lots of meta progression and difficulty enhancers. Get it. Realm of Ink, isometric action game with graphics that remind me of Okami. Lots of different start and play styles, upgrades in a run, and tons of meta progression. Rogue Prince of Persia just had a giant overhaul with art style, but the gameplay is incredible, movement is great, and combat doesn't feel unfair. Another great Prince of Persia game that was released this year. And lastly, Dungeon Clawler. It recently released into early access, and it's a claw machine roguelike. You face enemies, pick your weapons to attack via a claw machine. It's charming as hell. And now, the number 1 roguelite of the year. Bum. Is Balatro. We knew this was coming. No matter what you think of this game, I hope you can agree it's the best roguelite this year. This will be one of the greatest roguelites ever made. It's a genre-defining game. The cultural impact this game has had on the world since it was released on February 20th is insane. It has close to 50...
Óbvio que seria Balatro, né, cara? Óbvio. O celular tá vibrando tanto por quê, velho? É verdade, né, mano? Vou te adicionar, pera aí, vou te adicionar agora, calma aí. Deixa eu achar um vídeo da hora pra nós ver. Fala, Cacildes. Claro que eu tô vivo, mano. Tô procurando algum vídeo pra gente assistir. Enquanto a gente tá jogando. Pra gente ouvir, né, na verdade. Pra gente ouvir. Pera aí. Peraí. Eu vou achar. A era de ouro do YouTube se foi. Do Pyrocynical.
Something very strange is happening. It's almost like we're regressing back to 2016.
Ok. Bora. Procurando música? Não. Procurando vídeo.
Hello everyone. We are very excited to bring you an announcement today.
Donald Trump wins the presidency.
Here comes that bullshit water.
Online, reaction to Harambe's death was swift and immediate.
What you're seeing is advanced warfare. Donald Trump is president again. Mudeng is basically the new Harambe. FaZe Clan are dominating right now, except maybe in their stock prices.
The money, Skylar. Where is the rest? I spent it all on FaZe.
And on top of this, despite it being nearly a decade, Doge is still incredibly relevant. Mostly because it's found its way into the American government, thanks, of course, to Elon Musk, which, by the way, is the acronym for the Department of Government Efficiency. Again, the UK is one of the worst countries to ever exist, but I'm gladly reminded every day that I'm not actually American. And also an honorable mention to everyone's dopamine receptors being burnt out because, unfortunately, compared to 2016, we are now so fixated on short-form content that we're basically having a record diagnosis of attention deficit disorders.
And what do you think is going on this one, Anthony?
Maybe he's watching
Skibbity toilet.
And you know what all of this has reminded me of? There was a better time. The year is
2014.
The time of memes and the original brain rot. And speaking of
2014,
recently a game
Como eu amo esse jogo, velho. Puta merda.
Blaze It 2 Game of the Year. What? Now this is a sequel to a game that came out in
2014
and is a huge blast from the past. That, or the developer basically went into a coma for 8 years and he only just woke up to realize the troll face actually isn't as popular.
so requesting the resident orderly fashion. We're told
I've been out this whole time.
Oh wait, it is because of TikTok brain rot. Now, I do realize that I don't make content like this on the main channel anymore, and I haven't for a fair amount of years. I only really do, you know, super long-form game reviews where the protagonist has an existential crisis and severe PTSD, and the entire premise is all in their head. So what I wanted to do in this video is combine two things. I do want to go over this 420 Blaze It Game of the Year, but I also want to do a retrospective on if older YouTube was actually better. You know, because a lot of people look at it through rose-tinted glasses. It's like, oh, it was so much better in my time. We had Me Gusta and socially awkward penguin. And now what are the current memes? Hawk Tour. Apparently as well, by the way, Haley Welch, who did the Hawk Tour bit, she's apparently a time traveler, because recently I found out 16 years ago there was a YouTube video uploaded called Hawk Tour, and I went through the analytics. The title of the video was never actually changed. But you know what has changed?
Nem fudendo, velho.
New merch that is now available on Pyrocynical. But you know what? Through the analytics, the title of the video was never actually changed. But you know what has changed? This amazing new merch that is now available on pyrocynical.store. It also includes this totally dope beanie. I can't see anything. I really need a haircut. No shit. But look at this beanie. It's so cool. We've also got the jumper as well. It's all limited edition Christmas merch. Once it's gone, it is gone. Also, like, by the way, I probably should have thrown in a joke here that, like, 2016 Pyro merch was just Japanese text, and it was all, like, ran through Google Translate, so it was wrong anyway. Every YouTuber did that. I'm really not sure who started it, but they should be put to sleep forever. So, even outside of a historical context, the saying that history repeats itself, especially on YouTube, goddamn right, is very, very
Ah, tô me dando, mano. Que putaria, velho.
repeat themselves. Skibbity toilet, for example. That is something that, like, every 12-year-old is just obsessed with right now. Despite the fact that me laughing at it going, oh, that's so cringe. How could you like that? I was growing up when I was 12. I was probably watching, you know, YouTube Poops, the Gmod Idiot Box by Das Bullshit.
Esse som da águia me quebra muito, é muito bom, né, velho? Às vezes tem um botão na lareira, né? Sempre tem um botão na lareira pra você acessar o underground, mano. Só que você precisa de 2 chaves, é coisa pra caralho. Deixa eu te adicionar, eu esqueci, mano. Deixa eu te adicionar.
But before glossing over the happier times of my life, this video is brought to you by Game of Thrones Legends. You can assemble a team of champions with iconic characters like Jon Snow and Rhaenyra Targaryen. I would say Jon and Daenerys.
Guilherme Rats.
We know exactly how that ended. One thing I personally like about this game is how they got the likeness of pretty much.
Mano, você tem 700 horas de Rocket League, cara. 359 de Genshin.
And then they have a video game counterpart,
que
and it
isso,
looks nothing like them. You can engage in dynamic puzzle RPG
Foda.
battles. Charge your champion special abilities to set up amazing combos. You can also ha!
Spice. É uma run de Spice agora, família. É uma run de Spice. Eu não me importo. Se vocês se importam, vocês estão errados.
I was going to do a joke that it's too hot, but I live in the UK where the average mean temperature is like 5 degrees Celsius. You can unleash special abilities and weapons. Strategically pair characters with deadly weapons to do insane damage. A good example is Arya Stark with Needle, the little sword that she had for like most of the show. Now I'm giving you a one-time offer.
Não conseguimos entrar na. Não conseguimos entrar nos esgotos. Eu odeio meu passado de Genshin. Não odeio seu passado de Genshin, mano.
Description or the QR code on
Não odeio seu passado de Genshin, cara. Tá tudo certo. Puta, odeio esse mapa. Essa sala, né, na real.
One thing I have definitely noticed in my crippling old age of 27 years on this planet, you know, I'm told by family members, friends, 27 isn't even that old, but then I remember that TikTok exists and the average commenter of an age is 7 years old. But in my grand wisdom of old age, I've noticed one thing. The older we get, the more we look at the past. Different aspects of culture do rhyme with previous iterations, and I feel as you get older, unfortunately, you do tend to look back in the past with more and more nostalgia, more of those rose-tinted glasses. Why are we still here?
Suffer.
I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have thought of like a YouTube video or a film or a video game that I watched or played as a kid. I go and revisit it as an adult thinking this is where all my enjoyment came from. And I look at it and think, how the hell did I ever find this entertaining? This sucks. I do want to make 2 exceptions there. Tomb Raider on the PS1 and also Spyro the Dragon. They are cracked. And please, I don't want to hear you in the comment section crying how Crash Bandicoot is a better game. That game is made for stupid people because you only walk left and right or up and down. I definitely think overall at the minute there is a huge obsession with nostalgia. I mean, again, like I'm 27, I'm old, and then I scroll through my Instagram Reels or my TikTok or even my YouTube Shorts, jeez, for the 7 people that actually use that, and I will see consistently over and over people complaining that they're like 17 now and they've wasted their whole life. Shut up. I mean, to be fair, I would say shut up, but I remember doing the exact same thing at 17. Just to anyone that's watching this that's quite young, just so you know, that feeling that you're wasting your life until you like win the lottery or something.
Fucking Spice. A gente vai guardar dinheiro pro Spice, foda-se.
Peace with it if you can. I actually remember doing something very cringe-inducing when I was younger. What I would do is like look up famous people, and then I would compare their age to my age and realize that I've got like 4 to 5 years to basically become a trillionaire, or it's all over for me. That is very bad thinking. Please do not do that. And I think that's why now, currently, the biggest trend to follow if you want to grow any social media account is relatable humor. Oh, I'm less sad. I am le bed rotting, less scrolling on le phone. Everyone agrees with you because everyone has probably been there at some point, but they don't actually want to admit it. And I feel this constant cycle of like reminiscing is the reason why so many memes have
Vamos achar o outro baú, vai que é um baú melhor.
Face, for example, is still like semi-sarcastically used today. Among Us, that's still used today in very niche circles, probably completely ironically. But then obviously you have memes that couldn't stand the test of time, like Success Kids, Socially Awkward Penguin. What's that one? What's that one of the guy and he's got like a mustache and he's like evil or something? Like
o azul acho que é melhor, né?
let evil man, we'll call him that. Or something like let evil man, we'll call him that. Now, most people would say this is the most brain-rotted generation yet. I actually disagree, because the traces of this humor can actually be found all the way back in the early internet. And honestly, a very good example of that is early 2014 YouTube content, which is pretty much when I started
peraí que eu já vou voltar aqui.
what kind of content was made back in 2014.
Primeiro vamos ver isso aqui.
Why do you think the backdrop behind me looks like a Tesco corner shop? Wait, actually, no.
As botas novas.
American.
Bota pra quebrar, botas balísticas. O que ela faz essa porra? Melhora a cambalhota com adição de balas. Caralho, que maneiro. Isso é novo pra mim. Deve ter saído faz pouco tempo, na real. Sei lá.
If anything, this reminds me of the conversation that Saul Goodman had with Walter White in the final episode of Better Call Saul.
You'd have been the last brain rot.
Eu não tenho, falta dinheiro, velho.
Definitely do want to agree. The current meta is so attention deficit with short form content and trying to grab everyone's attention when you're scrolling.
Nossa, detesto esse boss, mano.
But at the same time, this isn't really much better. If you look at the majority of these like MLG montage parody videos, most of them are really just a couple of minutes long because they were so intense in the editing. But there definitely was this kind of like over-edited humor that was spread around the internet at the time. It wasn't just, you know, montage parodies. It was YouTube poops, SFM, if you didn't know, Source Filmmaker, which is still an industry right now and is going very strong today. That is basically Valve's in-house engine that they use to animate films. Like, for example, the Team Fortress 2, meet the player characters, meet the Pyro, meet the Spy. Valve basically let the public use that, and because of that, to this day, people are still making...
Quantas horas de Rocket? Você tem muitas, mano. A imagem de capa do teu perfil do Bloodborne, assim, é um print que eu mesmo fiz, mano. E demorou muito tempo pra fazer esse print, mano. É do Bloodborne, sim. Mano, Bloodborne é meu jogo preferido, cara. Eu platinei, velho. É meu Souls-like preferido, né, no caso. Quantas horas eu tenho de Fortnite?
YouTube to now is a lot straighter than you'd actually think. Now, I have established what was funny back then in the earlier days of YouTube, and a lot of people will use nostalgia bait.
Pior que a minha também, eu não vi, mano. Mano, meu jogo bugou. Aí desbugou. Deixa eu ver a tua. Pera aí.
I mean, a good example is the Fuck Boom. I mean, he gets attacked a lot. He gets a lot of criticism.
Foda, foda demais, tá? Mano, é muito bom, cara. Quantas horas tem de Fortinas? 207 horas, puta que pariu. Red Dead eu deve ter bastante, 108 também. Até que eu tenho só 30 horinhas só. Helldivers também deve ter muito, 39 só, tá pouquinho. Riskzinho, 1 hora só, pô. Returnal eu tenho mais, 28. Jogo difícil do caralho. Não gosto muito do Dark Flash.
But I do feel that this kind of humor is becoming more and more popular as more people get access to the internet. I mean, look at the early channels that did similar content. You had Dolan Dark,
Spice,
Vic Burger, Anonymous. These are people.
Dá pra roubar a loja, mas é difícil.
Complex edits, especially for the time. But if you combine all of their channel views together,
manjava que dá pra roubar a loja, mano?
The entire point I'm trying to make
A
here
vértebra.
is Dolan Duck,
Vértebra
please stop
K47.
copying me on your slop channel.
Eu
Time
gosto
for
aqui.
another episode of the Weekly Slop, where we look at the last 1 or 2 weeks of
Ai,
Pyro
cai no
Live
buraco à
content
toa,
and
viado.
summarize it.
The real point I'm trying to make
Que
here
ódio, mano.
is all of their combined channel views is only around 3% of what the fuck Boom has on his
Não sabia, pois é.
channel.
Você
Now,
precisa de alguns itens que te escondem, tá ligado? E às vezes ele percebe e te fode. É amo de explosões. Isso com a bota me dá o que de bônus? Caralho. Eu explodo.
Getting, you know, any kind of like proper assessment done. I mean, me personally, I'm getting myself assessed at the minute. I don't have the results back yet, but I can probably tell with like 99% accuracy I'm absolutely cooked.
To be fair, I hide behind the picture of a fox, so I'm just as bad.
Meu jogo desencaixou da TV por quê?
Because of how short form content is just consuming everyone. There's a Twitch streamer called Healthy Gamer or Healthy Gamers, and he actually did like,
meu jogo desencaixou.
showing how culturally we're all going to become attention deficit because the way content is becoming more and more short.
Ou não, na real, acho que não desencaixou não. Acho que é só que tipo o número tá muito grande, tá ligado?
But now if you look at things like apps, what we notice is that first there were blogs, and in order to engage with blogs you had to read 3 pages, and that has now turned into Twitter, 160 characters. We started with YouTube, right, where people used to make 20-minute videos, 30-minute videos. Now we have TikTok, which is like 60 seconds or less.
And that's one of the reasons, especially, why The Fuck Boom became so popular, because not only taking advantage of YouTube, like normal videos, but also the fact that he uploads many shorts as well. And most of the people do end up watching the shorts. And I can definitely imagine in the comments there will be many people critical of Skibbity Toilet. You know, if Skibbity Toilet had an entry on Letterboxd, I'm sure you'd give it 1 star and you'd write 20 paragraphs that no one apart from your mate on Discord is going to read. But it's undeniable that that series and that creator has made a huge social impact on kids. I mean, again, it's obvious there are so many examples of like these videos on Twitter of kids running around school just like shouting Skibbity Toilet. I'm sure you've seen that video of the child that I think is getting like a vaccine or something, and he starts using Skibbity Toilet as some kind of like therapy for himself. And that's one of the reasons why it's so popular, because it's reached out to so many young people. I mean, good examples of like older content, like for example the MLG edits that I came from.
Skibbity Toilet, mano.
Source Filmmaker. YouTube.
Já vou parar pra tomar banho, hein, galera. Vou fechar a live só pra tomar banho e depois eu volto.
That were kind of terminally online and had to know enough knowledge to get it. I mean, out of those 3, I think Source Filmmaker had the most success because Team Fortress 2 is one of the most popular games on Steam. I'd like to point out that was especially so after it went free to play and all the pores started flooding the game. Disgusting vermin. Getting Doritos in my mouth. Companies are definitely aware of how many children are accessing the internet at an early age as well. That's why you've seen the adaptation of such things like the YouTube Kids app. I remember when I was growing up at school, the cool thing to do to be like extra edgy was basically to go around and tell everyone this like gory video that you saw online, or 2 girls, 1 cup. But now the internet is becoming more regulated, and these companies realize that they can make a lot more money off these young people at a much earlier age. This entire video is going to come across as old head cope, right? I get it, like I'm old, I'm 27. But back in my day, kids usually around school would carry like Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But the point I'm trying to make is everyone had their collective different groups, and they might still do to this day, but probably not, because most people now at a young age are getting a smartphone. And also, Skibbity Toilet is in Target. They are doing Skibbity Toilet official merch in Target.
We just need money.
It is crazy for me to think back then when I was doing videos like MLG GTA 5, which, by the way, is a hilarious video. It's definitely aged very well. That was a single video talking about a game that I liked, but now everything is franchised, right? Like, if Skibbity Toilet comes out, even though that uses pretty much all the material from Valve's intellectual property, that is still incredibly monetizable. The point I'm trying to make is expansion is a bigger thing than ever right now. So if an MLG video, like, you know, MLG GTA 5, if that came out in current year, I wouldn't just upload the video, I would then be making merch around it. I'd probably have a U2's collab, like every YouTuber on the earth does. Or you could do what MatPat did and go against U2's and have tube buddies. That is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. I would not like to have that thing stare at me at 3 in the morning in the dark.
All the wickedness that mankind can produce.
I'd also like to point out as well, this was a very common thing back then, but it's even worse now. Content theft, right? Now, I'm not going to talk about plagiarism or anything like that, because you can go watch the H-Bomber Guy video on that. But I'm talking more about people that will directly steal your content. Not inspired or copying. I mean, they will literally right-click, save the video, and then just re-upload it onto their page.
First thing I do is go and search for popular YouTubers to screen record. After watching their video for a minute or two, I end the screen recording and crop the video so that it fits the screen.
A non-believer in our midst.
That was a thing back then, and it was pretty bad. I mean, usually what people would do is add like a watermark, and then you're done, sorted. But nowadays, what happens is people are now using AI and other software to erase the
O Spice, o trem de banha já falou, vai lá, mano. Daqui a pouco eu tô indo também. Rapidinho. Eu vou fechar a live pra abrir de novo depois, tá?
We've got companies like Redbubble that will basically just allow anyone to upload any kind of content they want and then sell it as a shirt for basically pennies in profit. I mean, even back in my day, you know, when I was doing like MLG videos or like starting out doing commentary videos for the first time, that was a huge problem there as well. You would have people that would draw fan art for me, like just, you know, I like this YouTuber, I enjoy their content, maybe I draw like a picture of them. And then what people would do is steal that fan art and then upload it onto Redbubble and try to sell it off as like official merch, because I didn't actually have merch set up at the time, or consistently anyway. And even with the fuck boom, there is so much Skibbity Toilet merch out there that is not official, not licensed. I even saw Skibbity Toilet merch at one point that used my TV head character, by the way. So technically, I guess, I am now canon in the Skibbity Toilet universe. Now, you may have noticed that everyone nowadays likes to throw out the words slop and brain rot. I mean, at the minute, it's actually a contender for word of the year in the Oxford Dictionary. By the way, I do want to say slop has become a universal word. I am claiming that word. I invented it because there's a video calling me out, and the guy literally says in said video that the first instance that he could find of it being said was from me.
Many believe that the term slop originated from him to begin with. I personally first heard it thrown around on an episode of his podcast.
I like to imagine it is an actual trough of slop and just the little piggies running up to the trough. Unfortunately, as much as we want to fight it, there is one thing that motivates most people in the world more than anything else, and that is money. That's why there's been an epidemic of faceless channels and people that are basically bragging that they're making all this money. I mean, one good example was Curtis Connor when he actually made a video talking about faceless channels, and he mentions that there was a video talking about Elon Musk buying a house that he didn't even buy. The video was sat on around 4.5 million views, and he made about 40 grand off it. And then, of course, like every other faceless entity, starts to sell you a course on how to be successful like him. So unfortunately, in that regard, I think slop has definitely got a lot worse in the recent years compared to 2016, because again, YouTube is much more saturated. You ask the average kid in school in Europe or in America what they want to do, they want to be some kind of influencer.
The research, the typhon, nothing can survive.
It literally is the dream job to have. But unfortunately, because of its accessibility, there are a lot of very malicious actors. People that don't really care about wasting your time, they just want to increase profit margins. I know this is ironic coming from me because the video before this was literally short of 10 hours long. I understand that. I think as well, unfortunately, content creators are some of the most
fez vídeo de quase 10 horas.
devices and to social media apps, because for the most part, it is their countless YouTubers.
Caralho, ele fez mesmo Darkwood.
Yeah, I uninstalled this app.
Que é
I
Darkwood?
uninstalled that app, and we've all seen the hilarious thing where a YouTuber tweets out saying they're gonna have a break from social media, guys. I need to detox, and then less than 24 hours they're back, and in that span of time they weren't tweeting, but they were probably.
Gente, eu acho que eu vou de banhos também e depois eu volto. O que vocês acham? Eu tenho que fazer o boss primeiro, né? Tenho que fazer o boss. Opa. Matei no melee, mano. Caralho. Spice. Sem chave ainda, mano. Ok, vamos tentar a sorte. Consegui. Cagada. Nossa, essa arma é boa. Puta merda. Chegou o Joto. Aí eu vou salvar agora e vou fechar. Gente, vou de banhos lá, vou desativar o modo Gamerson. E é isso, meus queridos. Já volto, tá? Beijão.